speaking, then you would not know, right?
Yeah. Try speaking.
Yeah, we are talking, so you'll hear it. Okay, let me just upload this guy. Publish. So choose file. Here it is. I think it's in downloads. Okay.
Yeah, for every table that we need to nominate.
So I'd already added you to.
Yes.
You can hear? Yeah, oh, it's nice. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Okay.
So what did you do differently this time?
No, it goes straight from the microphone to the computer.
Okay.
Yeah, because back then it was going through that microphone. For some reason, this building is not good.
Oh,
It has a lot of echoes and it's bouncing quite a lot. I could tell you something. Are you okay?
wow.
Sorry, they should put the space in a different color. But anyway, so they should be tapping from this. Okay, not from this one.
How
This-
do I know this one?
See, this is coming straight from the box, right? Yeah.
I'm just wondering where you went.
Okay, the next nearest one.
Yeah.
PG
The one-
Karuna.
yeah, the one
Okay, there
that
we
is
go.
going straight from the box. Yeah, because this goes to another.
Okay. So आप यहाँ stand होंगे सर? आप
Ah, yeah.
यहाँ होंगे?
Yeah, right here. Right here. Yeah.
I'm gonna put my phone here. Okay.
Working?
Yeah.
Okay, so
But
here.
they're turned off, so
Okay.
you need to turn it on. You want me to turn it on? Or?
No.
No? Okay.
I can forward you the link and then the password. Two players, they consolidate
Hi, how are you?
You're mic'd up.
Yeah, I think this today is going to work much better.
We haven't found a location yet.
Which one? Oh, really? I cannot believe that.
Hopefully, I think we'll try next. Jorge, right?
Yeah, Jorge. Yeah, yeah, Jorge is good. Yeah. Okay, so you're on. You're on. So these are the points we will be making, just so that you know.
This is your slide. This is a
Yeah, so we'll use. So these are the 14 points
manifesto.
I will cover. Yeah.
Okay.
There are no facts inside your building, so you've got to go and actually reach out. Pair customer development, agile development. Failure is an integral part of search. Make continuous iterations and pivots. No business plan survives first contact.
Correct.
Design experiments and test to validate your hypothesis. Agree on market type.
Correct.
Then startup metrics differ from those of in existing companies. Fast decision making, cycle time, speed and tempo. All about passion. Startup job titles are very different from a large companies. Preserve all cash if needed, which will fit in very well with what you're doing. Communicate and share learning. And customer development success begins with buy-in. So these are 14 points. So you'll be able to intuitively talk about many things. Okay, so, and then you're already here.
Correct.
And your presentation is here.
Is that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So if people click on it, then pops it.
Okay.
So everybody will be able to see it.
Okay.
And then your bio is here.
Okay.
California to buy that cheap promotion. They have to bring it there.
So we need to connect her up with that 12-year-old kid. Yeah.
Let me see, make sure it's the right one.
Okay. So this editor for India Abroad,
Oh,
I
okay.
met her at this CM Fadnavis's, Maharashtra CM,
Oh,
Chief
oh,
Minister.
okay.
So, I talked to the CM about teaching entrepreneurship on a distance learning basis in India, in Maharashtra. And then, so she came over showing a lot of interest to talk about it. So I said, why don't you come to my class and let me give you an angle. The youngest person in my class is 12 years old. So talk about,
That person.
oh, Mike. Hello, hello, hello. Testing. Perfect. हाँ
आपके पास हेडफोन है, ईयरफोन है, सेल फोन का या
ये है ना?
ये तो आपका अपना है।
हाँ
मैं डाला नहीं आज बैग में, कांटेक्ट करने के लिए मुझे चाहिए। सेल का भी मिल जाता
सेल फोन।
सेल फोन का जो ईयरफोन नहीं होता अपने
ओ हमारे बैग में देखते हैं। 50% चांस है। ये रहा।
थैंक यू। मैं आपसे ना जाते हुए दे दूँगा।
ओके।
तो
हाँ
जो भी मतलब बोलने के लिए आएगा ना, उसको स्टेज के ऊपर ले जाएगा। स्टेज के ऊपर बोलेगा तो ज़रा अच्छा रहेगा। मेरे कैमरे में पूरा आ जाएगा। पोडियम पे
यहाँ नीचे खड़े रहे ऊपर खड़े रहे।
ऊपर से वो कहता है पोडियम पे। आपका मैंने चेक किया हुआ इस साइड। आप यहाँ पे ठीक हो।
हाँ।
वो कोई वहाँ खड़ा होता है, कोई यहाँ खड़ा
नहीं, we'll tell them to stand right here.
Then it will be
सबको इधर ही बस, ये blue line here.
ठीक है। क्योंकि कोई उधर खड़ा होता है, उधर होता है।
नहीं, we'll get everybody to stand right here. Yeah, perfect. So, if you guys have your BMC ready, why don't you email it to raj@jaswa.com? raj@jaswa.com. Just email me the BMCs. That way, we won't have to change your computers and all that thing. Okay?
So I think then my idea is
Thank you, sir. I got this one.
Got it?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, everything is ready, sir.
Everything ready? Okay. Start in 10 minutes. I think we're all set.
Oh, you're on.
It's okay. Why?
I just asked if you need anything.
No, I think we are all set today. Today we're in good shape.
Sometimes they have
Oh, no chat.
I don't find
One group was asking, can they present as a group?
Yeah, they
And
should.
I said yes.
That's what they should. Yeah.
So today will be just those 12 groups, or they will be individuals?
No, it's going to start off with EGK,
Yes.
and then we'll do some lecturing together. And you should also join this particular discussion. So guys, I've only received 3 BMCs. So anybody else has got their BMCs ready? So just email them to raj@jaswa.com so I can have them all set up. Yeah. Okay. Bold canvas you got. Okay. So we got 3 of them. JASWA. Oh, you sent it to my Gmail account? Okay, no problem. Okay. Paramveer, okay.
I don't know, there is enough PowerPoint.
How are you?
I brought my son as another.
Oh, great.
Just paid him for the rest of the. This is amazing.
Perfect. Good. I hope you enjoy it.
All right. Yeah.
Great. Keep your dad honest. Okay, perfect. Raj, RAJ, at Jaswa, JASWA.com. Hello, hello, perfect.
Is anybody signed in?
Yeah, we've got 2 people. Yeah. Okay.
You do a roll call.
Oh, I think, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, around 40-ish out of 60. Yeah, 60.
60 includes the people overseas.
Plus another 12 overseas. Yeah. So, oh, you sent one more?
Sent a few minutes back. That's why I was wondering.
This one?
No.
Okay, I'll just upload this guy.
Yeah, that's
This one. Perfect. Okay. Okay, not bad. Okay, good evening. Let's get started. Okay, so the agenda for today is we have a guest speaker, A.G. Karunakaran, and he's a serial entrepreneur. And what's interesting about AGK is that he has bootstrapped both his companies and had already a very successful exit for one, and he's off and running with the second one. So he's going to kind of give you a perspective on bootstrapping versus getting professionally funded, like VC funding. And then the two of us together are going to then talk about some of the unique characteristics of how an entrepreneur goes about building his company versus, how things are done in the corporate world, right? So so by that, we should get both of that done by about 8:15. We'll take a break. And after the break, we'll have all of you go ahead and come here as a team and present your BMCs, okay? And then we will talk about how we're going to analyze the BMCs and what kind of feedback the rest of the class should be giving the team giving the BMC. And then we'll talk about where we want to take the BMC to and how we develop the BMC a little bit further. Okay, so I'm going to turn the mic over to AGK, and let me just set him up here a little bit. Okay, just a minute. So if we go to class 3, you'll see that.
Isn't that not here already? What's that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's your presentation. I just wanted to give you a background a little bit. So you'll see that AGK and I actually worked together for 3 to 4 years at Opti. And AGK was the head of my application development team. And also AGK, before he joined Opti, was kind of my partner with HCL, as together we went and developed a strategy to break into HCL and so on. So break into Dell Computers and other companies. So it all kind of comes together. And then AGK went on to start his first company, GDA. That was your first company, right? GDA. And the GDA stands for your dad's name?
No, no, we wanted it to be Global Design Automation, but we made it
Okay.
initials like my name.
Okay. Oh, it's your name going backwards.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's Global Design Automation.
Okay, Global Design Automation. Okay. So ran that pretty successfully, bootstrapped. How many employees did you have at your max?
A little over 400.
Little over 400 employees, you can imagine that. And then it was acquired by L&T Infotech and Rambus. And did you take a break after that, or did you just jump straight into the next company?
No, it started, the break was really deciding what to do next. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can think of it as, it's not like next day I started something. No, it took 5-6 months to just.
Okay, great. And then he started off. So how long have you been running Multicoreware?
Since 2009.
2009. So 5 years with Multicoreware. And he'll tell us more about, where the company is and so on. So without much more ado, let me give AGK the mic. And he'll tell us, first a little bit about his background. And then we'll talk about, thing that he felt he would like to help all of you understand.
Oops. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Again, I go by initials. My name is AGK. That's how everybody calls me since the time I started working for HCL. The way I'd like to, tell my story as an entrepreneur is that, my first job I got, I really, worked for an entrepreneur. He was a Frenchman in Pondicherry. He was running a couple of businesses. That really said, hey, wow, that's how you need to be an independent person, right? So what I felt was that he had all the financial independence that he wanted. And, that was my first even idea of one day I want to be an entrepreneur. But then, opportunity, luck, whatever you might call it, had it that, I worked for computer companies early on, like Wipro and HCL, and all of them are entrepreneurial in their own ways. And I got to work with lots, very, very successful entrepreneurs, and certainly with Raj later on in my career. So, I guess, things sticks to you, right, when you work with highly competent and successful people. So my own journey, the way it happened is, even though I talk about the discussion that I want to have today is about bootstrapping, and really I want to tell you how it happened to me, at least in my case, right? TIE is a great institution. I think Raj used to be very heavily involved with TIE when we were at Opti. So I think my first TIECon I attended was when I was at TIE. So I had this idea of I want to do something as well, based on your core strength. So at that point in time, there was a big, India was beginning to pick up on software development activities, and that's what we did at HCL. I felt that there's clearly such an opportunity there for hardware too, because many hardware engineers from India were looking for work over here. They were not really, for a variety of reasons, they were not able to do the development in India. So we said, hey, we want to create a company like that and create intellectual property that we can license. But then what happened was when I went at TIECon, I got an opportunity to meet with a lot of advisors, VCs. Many of them said that, this is not a fundable company. Everybody gives their perspective, right? So instead of just sitting tight, what I said was, we need to continuously look for ways. And it so happened that, we ran into a customer who was willing to write the first check, at least in our case. And that was the trigger for me to say, hey, you could build a company even without the venture capital money. At that time, the notion was you got to build a company only with venture capital. But then once you are in it, right, once you get the first customer and then, or the idea was of somebody willing to pay you the money, then, your whole trajectory changes. Then you build a company, for scaling it from one stage to another. So I'll talk about what I went through as an entrepreneur in creating a bootstrap company, and I've synthesized into some 10 recipes, and we'll talk about each one of those and relate to how it happened in both of my companies. Okay. So if you take a look at it, like in any, I mean, we all talk about, when it comes to being an entrepreneur or creating a new company, the first and the foremost thing that you need to do is, identifying the core team. But the way you identify the core team is different. If you are, trying to build a company with, significant venture capital investment, then you may be able to attract the right talent. With the right funding, you may be able to even, move them from one successful company, big company, to you and all that. So here, what you need to really sell is the individuals who believe in your business model and the opportunity, and who have the staying power. So, and that the criteria that you come up with for that core team as an entrepreneur, or entrepreneurs, if you have a few founders together, is important to come up with that. I mean, time to time this can change, right? Like, in that particular time when I started, I really wanted people who were totally complementing my skill set, right? So I looked at, that was my only criteria, right? I mean, and I also wanted, and all of us were hungry to be an entrepreneur. It's not like we've done that before, one person versus other. So we just identified the criteria, believed in it, and we also believed in what we want to be as a company, right? That could be business model and the opportunity. And then we said, hey, let's just embark on it. So that identifying the team is very, very important. I'll tell you, the first company it was, and in the second company, I was, already, reasonably successful exit, and, what should I do next, right? At that point in time, the one thing that I look for is that if you really take a look at it, this company, just so that when I decided to leave the company that acquired me, which is L&T, I was thinking that I will do completely different. I was talking to, VCs. They said, hey, you did a company without raising money. This time you should perhaps, we'll invest in you. Come talk to us. So I had this, soft introductions to venture capital. But by the time I, was my last day, and then I went to India and came back, the whole market tanked. The 2008 meltdown. So 2009, it was like, all the, everybody is going for the cover, right? They're just trying to say, what investment I have, let me try to maintain that. And they were trying to shut down companies and things like that. So then I ran into this co-founder who says, the only thing I want to be a co-founder with you is because you build a company without raising money, and this person has raised money a lot in the past, and they've had different outcomes. They said, hey, can we do it again? So I said, hey, you know what? Somebody's looking at my strength. And I also felt that the timing was such that even if I go and ask for money at that time, I will not get the money. Instead of wasting time raising money, we said, hey, let's focus on how to look at the problem differently. So what I, again, in all of that, we put together a totally new team. And the criteria that I had was that, all of them can work without pay for a very long period of time if I chose to. Right. So that was one criteria that I established. And then I could find people. I mean, once you establish the criteria, you can always look for, the type of people that you want. That's what I'm saying. And also I took a completely different approach. Even though I live in the Valley here, I went to Midwest. My, the core team is in Midwest, the engineering team. They're based in St. Louis, Missouri, and Urbana-Champaign. So I could find extremely talented resources over there, but they were not finding the right opportunities to be at the ground floor. When I say ground floor, meaning at the beginning of the startup. So I said, that's the value that I add to them. And I be the Valley presence. I can do the customer, and they can do the technology. And, again, the reason I'm giving you two different stories is that the criteria that I applied, on situation one and situation two in my own startups were different. But once we decided that we want to be a bootstrap company, then these are the filters that I applied. The second thing that I look for, having learned from the previous opportunities, that in a bootstrap company, you need to get that initial customer, and you need to figure out a way to retain that customer. So in both cases, we had this initial customer who gave us considerable amount of money to trust, and that's really because the goodwill that you have developed in the industry. So people trust you for certain things, right? I mean, this could be your own managers, your peers, or your advisors, whoever that may be. And in our case, in both cases, we had initial customer acquisition, so that was good. And then you feed off from that success and you build on it. The other one is that many times I've seen, these things happen. A good team may be formed, a good customer can come about, but many times you will not be, focusing on growth. People say that you go sideways or you become a mom and pop company. And the definition is that once you are sort of independent and you can feel comfortable, you lose sight of the growth, and you really enjoy the independence, and then you don't scale. So in our case, we decided that every outside of our burn rate, whatever we get, we'll continuously invest in in coming up with new product ideas or intellectual property that can be further leveraged. So the growth plan, you need to have a clear strategy in reinvesting your profit, and many companies don't do it. And I think for a bootstrap company, that's very, very important. The other thing that I also do is, in terms of, cash is king, right? I think Raj says that all the time, and it's very important to how do you stretch that $1 that you may have in your balance sheet as far as possible. So I have tuned, it worked for me, and people ask, how do you do that? You just ask and you say that's what's possible. And many people realize that, hey, if they can truly make a difference and then get paid for success, then they also feel that they have participated in the journey and they enjoy that reward very, very well. So we have always focused on compensating for success. So even for engineers in my companies, I've always had typically salespeople are the first one who say that I'll go on pure commission or 100% success based. Of course, they may make more money than you as a founder, but sometimes it's needed for that company. But trying to sell that idea to engineering team is also helped me a lot. So I always had a variable compensation mechanism in both my companies, right? It takes initial effort in terms of selling that, but then it becomes a culture of your company. So everybody understands that, and when they see that reward as you hit a milestone, or if you make significant amount of profits at the end of the year, and that gets returned in the form of year-end bonuses or 401k profit sharing or something like that, people, then it becomes, you don't need to preach it. Your own respective team will start preaching that. The other thing is also very, very capital, spending, right? It's very, very important to, all businesses, right? Nowadays, if you're doing a pure startup business, that's a different story. You can do stuff in Amazon, but depending if you're a hardware company or if you're doing a hardware software company, you need to have some sort of capital equipment. How do you, whether you get logic analyzers, I still remember, sharing logic analyzers with, two different companies, or, co-locating with somebody in the same building, or, getting used furnitures as opposed to paying your money to get the new furnitures. A lot of ways you can, extend that dollar by being very, very prudent in capital spending. And a lot of times also, like I said, leveraging the resources around you. If you ask, people do help you. And, for example, that customer not only wrote the first check for me, they gave the entire, furniture and the initial set of compute equipment for the whole team. Right? Because you just say, I know you gave the money, but how about, so sometimes you are hesitating to ask, and, if you, thou shalt ask, thou shalt get, right? And, or if you don't ask, you won't get it. So worst case they can say is no, as long as you're prepared to get that. So, then you can leverage the resources around you. And this could be in many, many ways, asking for help, asking for introductions, any of those things, right? And you can, or we can be very creative in terms of sharing the salespeople resources. Like I found one company where they were selling ancillary products, that products and services in terms of what we had. So the same guy was reaching to the customer. So I put to the, ended up doing a partnership arrangement where that, even though that salesperson is not on my payroll, he or she got compensated, right? So that kind of arrangement also you can do. Again, that's what I call it as leverage resources. And you have to be very creative. Circumstances different, but you need to consciously ask yourself, hey, am I leveraging the resources that are available to me? And then the other thing that the next three things are really financial related, because a lot of times, before I get into financials, I'll also talk about the processes, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be like everything is done by you, right? So as the moment you think that something can be replicated, I mean, I gave you this example of being a mom and pop company versus a scaling company. For us, when we were 3-4 people in a room, the way we operated was a lot different than when we had 10 employees in the company, a lot different than we had, 25, 50 employees in the company. And as you start adding zeros next to your, head count, right? I mean, 1, 10, 100, the kind of infrastructure that you need to put in place is really different. So having that process is right, documenting it. Sometimes you as an entrepreneur or the CEO need to take that effort and then make sure that that's followed across the board. And that is something, again, it's very, very important as you scale the company. This is true even whether you're a funded company or not, but more so for a bootstrap company, because some of that initial principles that work for you, you want to impart to the people down below also, right? Just because you're in revenue, you should not forget that that simple, whether it's how you travel to how you buy your equipment, all that stuff. So all of those things matters a lot. Then the next 3 things is really, at least I was never good at finance, but one thing that I learned was, as soon as I became an entrepreneur, was how to manage cash, right? And you need your, I would say that cash management is absolutely important to all the top management, as well as I would even say top 20% of the company. You need to keep preaching them on how you manage the cash. And sometimes you learn from other people, sometimes you have totally creative ideas that you come up with, from you get ideas even from your own employees in terms of how you do that. Then as you become bigger and bigger, you also need to establish banking relationship, because a lot of times, the customers will negotiate. They say, now that you're big, we will pay you only in 60 days. How do you manage your cash flow for that period? How do you, that's really working with the banks at that time. A lot of times when you're very small, bank may not support you, but once you get to certain size and scale, then that's a sweet spot for them. So establishing that is very important. And last but not the least is that aware of growth capital providers, right? I mean, initially you may have gotten to a point where you don't need the VCs anymore, but you may need mezzanine capital providers, or sometimes private equity. Or, maybe you can think of acquiring similar companies. So you should not, certain things, like in our case, for example, in both companies, it's happening. We were selected by Inc. magazine as one of the fastest growing private 500 companies, right? I mean, it's just, we did that for GDA, and, having done that, I applied the same thing in my company also. This company is also one of the fastest growing private 500 companies. And, once you get to that, then without you knowing, a lot of people are reaching out to you, right? But a lot of times people say, oh, I don't care. But, I take the time to establish the relationship with those growth capital providers, because then you find out the right intersection, and if you find the right target, maybe you can use them. And I was very close to, merging and creating a much larger entity, but at the same time, we had opportunity to exit the business. So we chose to exit as opposed to going down that other path. But those opportunities will come to you. So these are sort of, I'd say, the elements that you need to look at. And, in each of my, both the companies, right, I've applied each one of these, and from, the learnings are different, and the timing was different. But the application of each of these elements, I would say I can give specific examples for each of the scenarios. The other thing is, while everybody says, oh, you're great that you have bootstrapped the company, but you all also have to realize that, there's also downside to bootstrapping. It's not like, everything is honky-dory. You need to realize that certain businesses do need upfront capital, because otherwise it'll be a sure death. You all hear that, so many companies get started and within a year they die. And it's important that you all realize that which business is bootstrappable and which is not. And especially these days with in Amazon and things like that, you can go a lot further And because of that, even VCs expect a certain kind of either the number of users or customers, or revenue. They may have certain type of criteria that before they even consider software startups. But you have to understand what is bootstrappable and what is not. And the other one also is that the staying power of the founding team, right? I always insist that that you all need to know how long can you go, right? That persistence, that's a lot more needed. I mean, in an entrepreneurs, because even a funded, Raj could tell stories about it. Even if you raise a big Series A, sometimes you have to act from a Series A to Series B transition. You need to act like a bootstrapped company because you're running out of money, and then how do you manage? And that is when the staying power and persistence comes into act. Another one is also, right, for many people, right, from outside things may sound great and all that stuff, but once you're within the four walls, the amount of challenges that you have, how many times you would go very close to payroll and figuring out when the last customer check's coming in to meet that payroll, those kind of issues, you need to be prepared to deal with, right? Because it's not, whereas if you have sufficient balance sheet, then you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. But and there's benefits in each. And then a lot of times, I've also noticed that as times change in the journey of the company, you need to pivot, right? You can't be doing the same thing. And I use the word diversify, but some people call it pivot. You need to look at various ways. I mean, if you are, let's say, just pick an example, what is hot today, let's say, IoT or something like that, right? But tomorrow that may not be the case, right? So how are you morphing into something new that's different, right? That you need to be prepared with, right? I mean, because what worked the first time may not work the second time, so you need to be prepared for that change. The other thing is, this has personally happened to me, right? I mean, you think that when you share the pains and the gain, you would expect everybody to understand, but not everybody understands it, because some people get it, some people don't get it at all. And you need to very quickly realize the people who don't get it, either they're not part of your team, or you're not sharing the pain and the gain with them, because they don't have that maturity to understand what the founders are going through. Not many employees or your team members know that. And then the other one is like, we do that, right? Every year when we, as the company grew and we generated a lot of profit, I talked about before too, but a lot of times you need to make the right investments at the right time. You can't have your old habit. When I started the company, I was not spending on marketing, but when you have to spend in marketing, you need to, right? That's why VCs say that, hey, you have your money, you raise the money to spend on certain things. Similarly, when you have money, you should also do that spend. A lot of times I've seen, even, I've had that struggle myself to say, do we really need to spend on this particular problem, right? But if you don't spend it, then some other guy who got funded later on for the same idea will beat you, right? You need to be prepared. So that's, sometimes you need to get over your old habit in scenarios like that. So that's the other pitfalls. I mean, just giving you examples. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about funding options, right? How do you get, the initial funding for a bootstrap company? So like I said, nothing like getting the customer money from the customer first. And depending on the type of deal that you're cutting, sometimes you can even negotiate upfront payment. Even if you're shipping a part, you could ask them, hey, pay for the cost of the product. Margin, maybe you can pay me during your normal terms or something. But and I don't know how many of you have known Dell, right? I mean, a lot of times when he started the company, if you really take a look at it, he gets a credit card from the customer, then he's negotiating where to buy the motherboards or where to buy the memory or something like that. You may have heard that story where you got the customer money up front. And that's, all of you should keep on thinking, how can I get that money? Even if you get VC money, it's okay to ask that money from the customer that gives you. The other thing, at least, didn't work for me the first time because I didn't know about it. But the second time around, we benefited a lot by, doing business with the government. I mean, I don't know how many of you know, United States government gives something called Small Business Innovative Research Funding. And they have like, I don't know how many of you know about SBIR. Does anybody know? Like, I see only 2 or 3 hands, right? So that SBIR is where you write a research grant to the major 9 different departments like DARPA, Department of Energy, Department of Education, Department of Agriculture, the whole bunch of government departments under each secretary. So they put out 2 in a budget cycle in a 12-month period. They put out 2 such research proposals. So you can write a proposal, and typically they fund up to $100,000, $60,000 to $100,000, and then if you deliver on your research promises, and then the subsequent could be up to $1 million, right? So if you, I know many entrepreneurs in my previous journey, and that's why I applied it over here too. But of course, it has different criteria. You need to have a team with the right resume with it, right? Somebody who have done pure research before, like professors or PhD students, or somebody who's just got a PhD. All of that stuff matters because that's what the reviewers are looking at. So you need to make sure that you have the right element in it, and it worked out well. I mean, at least in this case, we got a DOE grant, and that was my customer funding. In both, I did this, and then the other one I've seen, though I don't know, maybe we did it in GDA too. So we were a team of 4, founding team. But what we realized is that at least a couple of them could consult in a domain that's not relevant to what we are doing. So there was no IP contamination. So we could do like McKinsey type of consulting charges, and we were able to get significant amount of cash flow that would pay like 4 other engineers or something like that, right? So you could try that, and that works. And especially if you have complementing founding team, and if you're going after one problem, there are enough problems out there, you could always find consulting income. And then the other one is trying to do minority, for example, you get favorable treatment with bigger customers, like especially companies like Lockheed, or many of the ones that do business with the government. They all have to give enough business to minority-owned businesses. So try to set up a company like that. I know a couple of Thai members who have done that, and done that very, very well for themselves. Right? They incorporate the name on the wife's name. That's creative, right? And she's the owner, and you can check that box, and that creates again, whether it's Lockheed Martin, I'm giving an example, or anybody who does business with the government. So if they're called tier 1, and they need a lot of things to get done, and in their budgets they say X% of their spending need to be with startup companies with or small businesses with minority thing, right? So you should look into that. And then last is which is available, to all of us, do is to work for sweat equity, right? And use that very, very diligently. Whether you're finding some consultant or expert who would work out of their day job or something like that to come and help you. You could use cash. Of course, it's the most the equities, people think that it's something that you can give away, but only when you find an exit, then you realize that maybe you gave away too much or something like that, right? You need to be very careful on how you use that currency also. Then that's the early days, right? Then once you go to the the stage where you are generating revenue and you're barely profitable, you could use any of these 3 options, right? Suddenly you're an established commodity. You could perhaps get money from the VCs. Don't say no to it, because at any stage you should encourage. And for example, in my case for GDA, we had an extremely good valuation, and we had a term sheet from a VC, and complete due diligence done. They insisted that we need to have a syndicate, and I was in negotiation with a syndicate partner in Washington DC, and voila, that they were bombing Pentagon, right? The plane went down in Pentagon. And then the next day morning, the same set of syndicates said, sorry, looks like, we can't fund you because we don't know what's going to happen, right? So, but on the other hand, I didn't stop. I just, continued building the company, having done that once before. But having the open mind to receive that, because once you cross a certain threshold, whether it's number of users, whether it's so much in revenue, and even some bigger customers start doing business with you. Like in my case, I used to know so many people at Sun Microsystems, for example. I used to keep and ask them, hey, can you give me business? Give me business. They wouldn't. Then after some point in time, it was very easy. Then I asked, and I'm not supposed to tell you this, but then they were waiting for you to see whether you will survive for 3 years in business. And then after 3 years, we started doing $1 million deals with them, right? So that kind of, you need to understand, where you can get. And then of course, bank line of credit. I mean, I got the benefit of working with Silicon Valley Bank, and they understand startup ecosystems. So, you can work with them and put a line of credit together and a loan and all that. That gives you working capital as well as to buy new equipment and things like that. And then the last one is, of course, towards the exit, where you go through your revenues, your profitability, and based on that, you can get private equity financing, corporate investors. I evaluated all 4 of these. Raj knows that we were all part of the CEO forum. In my second spurt of the growth, I did very, very well for the first 4 years. We got to $11 million in revenue. The first 4.5 by 2011, 2001, and then we took a dive, and then we started growing back again. And when we were going back again, we were even more wanted community because or company, because we have survived that downturn, and that resulted in a lot of interest in each of those 4 areas. But then we finally ended up getting acquired by 2 different entities. So all of that is possible when you have that. The advantage, of course, is that all of you get to. So the way you need to assess your what's as long as you know that you can build a company without raising money or scale it without get to a point of scale, then the amount of dilution that you have to take is lower, and therefore the rewards also you get to keep a lot more. I mean, that's why if you see for example, Microsoft story, right? They did raise the money, they never used that money. You may have heard Bill Gates talking about it, right? But at some point in time, having that cash helped them to possibly go IPO. I don't know, but maybe the help that comes from the venture community will be different at that scale. So the way I look at it is if you're prepared to sometimes you need to take the money, take the bigger bet. Like they say that I'm going for am I a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond, right? You need to take a look at it and say, hey, can I hit the ball out of the park, take it to $1 billion valuation, and therefore even if I'm diluted, I'm great as an entrepreneur. But that doesn't happen. It happens to very, very small percentage of companies, possibly in decimal points, right? But then in my type of companies, if you really take a look at it, the founders do reasonably well, right? But at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur who have raised money and then exited, and as a bootstrap company you've exited, typically you can sort of, what this comes to you should be almost the same, right? That's what I've seen in terms of, because you don't have the preferences, you don't have to meet the IRR goals of your venture capital and all that. But sometimes a business is not possible without the VCs, so you can do the pros and cons. So that's what I would say. I mean, I want to encourage any questions that you may have with respect to bootstrapping, and because you're all learning, I just want to make sure that as you're going through this learning exercise and then eventually starting companies, you got to be, don't sort of wait for I'll do the company only if I get venture capital money. And that was an internal soul searching that I came to during my first startup, and second, it was almost forced into it because of the market condition and my co-founder demanding it. So I'd suggest the same thing to you guys, right? If you need to experience entrepreneurship, because you've taken the right first step to coming to this class. But then when you go through the entrepreneurship, you have all kind of options. I think Raj only says that, right? You have to jump and then get ready to build a plane and then fly, right? So so that's all of that is an option for you guys. Raj, I don't know if you know anything else. Questions? I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of questions. Go ahead. So in both startups, you were able to get.
Can you repeat the
Yeah,
question?
I will do that. Yeah.
In your both startups, you were able to get your first customer who was ready to pay. So is there a strategy for that, or it's just?
Yeah, very good question. So I won't say both the startups it was the case. So I'll tell you the first case it was the case, right? Because we decided that I told you about the broader idea of trying to do complex hardware development out of India was the fundamental idea behind it, and also the industry was transitioning from transistor based, meaning graphical based design, to language based chip design. So sorry. So those days when we started GDA, most of the companies were doing, if you want to design a chip, they do graphical representation of how you put transistors, how you put the individual gates and all that stuff. Then at that time, the industry was transitioning to what's called language-based design. So that was a transition. So we wanted to capitalize on that transition. Those were the two fundamental business opportunity that we were going after. But again, the greater than money goal was to give that opportunity to the engineering teams in India, because when we came here, we didn't have that opportunity. So, but the way that we were benefited was because when we shared these ideas with the people that and in my particular case, we had 3 customers from very early on. But the first customer who wrote the check was somebody that I knew for almost 6-7 years, right? From HCL days, then I knew him from I was at Opti, then even at Trident. I mean, it really happened at a Comdex show. We all used to go to a trade show. He said, "Hey, you guys are talking about starting a company, but you're not really doing it." I said, then here's a check. Then, that's how, it happened to us, right? So I should be very, very fortunate. No, we didn't have. I think the Trident booth, right? So that's what that was the first sort of inclination that happened. The second time around, like I told you, my whole idea was to raise money the second time around, because I didn't want to. Again, you want to try the other side of the pasture, right? And I said, "Hey," but then this happened where it literally happened. My last day was sometime October 10th, I think. And I went to India for the November 3rd or something, came back. That's when the whole meltdown happened in 2008. So everybody went for the cover. So even the people, when I came back and made phone calls to the same people who encouraged me this time around, they said, "You know what? I don't know what's going to happen. Take it easy, enjoy your holidays, man." Right? So I said, "Oh, that's." Then I said, "Oh, I need to look at." But at least I was very clear in terms of, again, the discontinuity that I was going after was, that's why the name multi-core, where the industry was going from single core to multi-core microprocessor transition. I mean, I would say there were a few multi-core systems, but not a lot. And we said that that whole thing is going to break because microprocessor cannot be just running fast anymore. It's no longer clock. It's really how do you develop highly parallel systems. So first thing I did was to find out who are the top researchers in this area. So my professor, my CTO is a professor at Urbana-Champaign. So he was keen. He says, "Oh, that's good. You've done one successful startup before. Whatever you do, I'd like to engage with you," right? There was a first commitment that we got from a pure researcher who's got the right background. Then, the core team got formed. So we were just we spent about 6-7 months identifying what are the areas of focus and all that stuff. And then, of course, we really, I'd say, spend money on the lawyers and all of that stuff only after we got the first order from the customer. But we spent about 6 months on our own, because we had the luxury, because all of us, my criteria, as I told you earlier, was that people should work for however long without getting paid, right? So once I had that rule, then I was only looking for people who can be in that scenario. So that's why I could string along for 6-7 months. Yeah.
Were these all graduate students?
No, these are all, I can, some of them in the faculty, some of them were spouses were doctors, things like that, right? You can always find different ways, to do it. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so one specific pattern which emerges based on your experience is that bootstrapping would work when you're dealing with low volume but high cost sales, specifically targeting B2B, wherein you rely on one specific check from a large customer. So how would this work when you are dealing with large volume, low cost sales? It may not be B2B. Is there any specific strategy which can be applied to bootstrappers?
So, I mean, again, I mean, the question was in in a large, B2B type of sale where the per order is pretty large, you could try bootstrapping because you can go and sell your capability to the customer. Whereas in a, B2C model, I thought it was B2B, in a B2C model where you have to sell it to many, many people, I mean, classic example is Dell, right? We just told that's clearly a B2C model. It was not a B2B at all. B2B at that time, people will buy computers only from IBM at that time, right? Whereas this guy decided from dorm saying that, hey, I'm going to sell it to anybody who places the credit card. So then, you figured out a way to collect the money first and then ship the thing, right? So, I mean, of course, you won't suddenly start shipping, thousands of PCs or 100. You start with, at least you're getting the cash flow in, right? So then that became the culture. I mean, we can tell much, much later when we were designing products for them, the way they kind of leverage third party, right? I mean, they leveraged Opti, right? And then they leveraged their own contract manufacturers to the hilt, right? They won't spend any money, but they will have a world-class product that competes with IBM, right? So they could do that, but that's because they've had the initial success. Where they had the initial success was they had established their own channel and a mechanism for it's okay to pay the money ahead of time to collect your PC, right? So that's a mind shift change that at that time they were able to create. That's one example. Now, again, I don't know what your B2C product is. Based on that, you may want to try creative ideas.
I'm just wondering, where does crowdfunding fit here? So you talked about the venture capital or raising money other ways, but nowadays, crowdfunding is also another way to get money, and that also in a way validates the product.
Absolutely, that's early days funding. I mean, I know of very good examples. I'm sorry for not capturing it in here. I mean, the question was, how does crowdfunding fit into this, bootstrapping? I personally think that's again, you're not diluting anything, right? I mean, you have making. I mean, how many of you know a company called Oculus Rift? Does anybody know? Yeah, that was a crowdfunded gig, right? So where they initially started building these VR headsets with money, and then it went really, really, gangbusters and got acquired by Facebook. So possibility is there. I mean, you should try that. I mean, I know some people misuse it too. Like I know I've been not advising an entrepreneur who was trying to cite an example, but he himself realized saying that, oh no, that was cheating AGK, so I didn't want to be part of it anymore. And because sometimes you think that, you want to be true to your mission, right? What you say and what you do should be the same. Just because somebody is willing to give, many people are willing to give $10, $20, $50 towards your thing. If you don't follow through it, it'll come and bite you. Yeah, please.
So the very first round, you said VCs were not ready to fund the company. Why did they?
No, because see, they, in our case at least, they were questioning two things that they questioned. One was they felt that hardware design is not possible to do it in India. It was a blanket statement at that time, right? People were questioning even to get stuff done in India. Software development is the thing, right? Whereas guys like us who designed a very complex 6830-based multiprocess system in India, we knew it was possible. It's just having access to the right. And at that time things were just becoming online, right? Even then it was difficult to get data sheets and things like that. But having a presence here, leveraging the team there, we believe we could do it. And that's exactly what HCL and Wipro and all did in those days when they were designing computers and selling it for the Indian market. So that was one thing. And the second thing that they said was that they fundamentally challenged that people will never outsource hardware. Right. I mean, those are the two things they said, and because of that, it'll become like a consulting business. I mean, people are aware, right? I mean, a lot of people university professors and all of them were consulting, and they'll make extra income. They thought this company will be on that sort of. That's why there's a general classification that they call it mom and pop. And if it was mom and pop, we were not interested also, right? So we wanted to scale. So that was the reason, yeah. So
let's just take one more question, or otherwise we're both going to pitch the next section together. So we'll
yeah,
have more questions.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, hey AGK, that's fantastic. Okay, so what we want to cover is things that are different, and especially different about being an entrepreneur. And this is from that Steve Blank book, but it's worth discussing. So no, I think there's something going for here. Yeah. Okay, so rule number one is that there are no facts inside your building, so get outside. So basically what this means is the following, which is if you look at a big company, big companies, the product marketing guy, the guy who writes a spec, actually never leaves the company. He sits in the company and all the information comes to him. The salespeople say that, hey, this customer is asking for this feature, or the engineering people say that, now we can do 10 million gates in a single chip versus 1 million before, or we can go at a certain higher speed, or all that information essentially comes to the product manager, who largely defines the product. In the entrepreneur's case, it's different. He's got to go outside. I mean, no matter how much I believe that unless you validate it with real people out there, your real customers, real partners, real experts, whoever they are. So every data point that you have for your company or your vision or your business model, you need to validate with somebody outside. So as we go through your BMCs, for example, your business model canvas, there are a lot of assumptions that you're going to make about what is a good value proposition for your customer or this particular segment of the customer. You can say that, hey, that's obvious. Come on, this other company is doing the same thing. And you'll find that unless you actually have gone and talked, you as the entrepreneur, not one of your employees, not somebody else, has actually gone and talked to a real person who represents that particular segment and who shows interest in that particular feature, you can be sure that there's something that you're not understanding about the value of whatever you're doing or whatever assumption that you're making. There is, because really the whole essence of an entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur is trying to find something unique that other people don't in big companies. So that unique stuff is something that you can only get if you actually talk to real people out there, right? So I can tell you that, from my particular examples, very often the tendency that I would have would be to, hey, I've got better engineers and I've got some access to better technology, so I can beat this other competitor's product, right? So I would try to go and just write the spec or define the product and tell the engineers to go and do it. And I found that 3 months, 6 months after we have done it and we introduce it to people, I always found that I had missed some key particular angle in that particular product or a feature or something or the other. I had missed something, and my competitor, who may actually have had poorer technology but had gone and really connected with the customer, he's the one that ultimately had got everything right. So, and as an entrepreneur, there's a big premium to getting it right the first time. I think in the Opti case, I talked about how, like, I pretty much bet the farm every time, right? Whatever money you have in the bank, you just go and order volume production on, Rev Zero, right? So it's really important to hit the target exactly right. Yeah. Have you had situations where you had to go and talk to the customer? Well, in your particular case,
It was custom.
you started your business. You started your business by finding a customer, and I think that is kind of the ultimate.
Correct. Exactly.
The ultimate is where the customer becomes your partner in helping you kind of build your company, because he's actually, and probably the most famous example of this, believe it or not, is Microsoft.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft actually did not even have a MS-DOS. They licensed it from another lone wolf engineer who had developed something called Seattle DOS. And IBM was going to come and visit them. And Bill Gates, found this engineer who had developed a little OS called Seattle DOS. And he told this engineer, can you license me your software? And, he worked out some deal in one day with this engineer. And then he offered it to IBM as though it was a Microsoft product. And in this particular case, IBM did not have much of a choice. So, they went ahead with him. And IBM, I believe, had put 400 engineers to test and QA MS-DOS, while Microsoft had 40 engineers writing the code. So you can see that, that was, in my opinion, kind of and the day it came out, it became like, the most successful OS in the world, right? There are 1 million users because IBM had absolutely, tested it down to the core. And I think I was at Intel at that time, and I had access to the IBM team that was actually developing it, because IBM was using the 8088 microprocessor that I was the product manager for. And I could see all these experienced IBM managers and engineers pulling out their hair saying, why can't IBM write this code? Because we are writing 10 times as much code to test the code that Microsoft is writing, the 40 engineers that Microsoft is writing. But anyway, this was a corporate deal done. IBM had their vision as to why they wanted a third party to provide the OS rather than an in-house IBM developed OS. Otherwise, it would become an IBM product rather than be a PC, right? Anyway, but the point is that Microsoft, by getting IBM to actually test the product, define the product, document the product, everything, and launch the product, essentially, created a very customer-driven product that became insanely successful. So, I think the message from AGK's story is, if you can get your hands on a real customer, you're already halfway there. And by the way, I don't know if how many of you are keeping track of that Cheeky Chunk company that made those custom umbrellas. He has now had press coverage. He's had TV coverage. He's become the hottest guy selling custom umbrellas in India, and it's just. But he did a lot of market testing of his custom umbrellas with all college kids walking around, and he actually had college kids take his umbrella and walk around, and he was trying to kind of see what the reaction was from their friends and everything else. But it's very important to go ahead and actually try to find a real customer who will, kick the wheel, kick the tires, so to speak. Rule number 2 is pair a customer development and agile development. I think AGK's products are just that, right? I mean, he probably has engineers who probably work night and day to kind of beat the customer's expectations on what the requirements are. And the customer changes his mind and has a different feature required, his engineers probably implemented it faster than anybody else would have done it. So the key element to for an entrepreneur is really to have an engineering team that is bought in to the entrepreneur. If the engineering team, I think AGK made a very good point, which is when you hire your employees, your first employees or your engineering team and your team, look for people that buy into your business model. Sometimes like people ask me like, why don't you go for the smartest guy there is? But if the smartest guy there is in that particular field is not willing to be bonded to you, so that, as you hear from the customer different things, and the customer, very often will keep changing his mind a little bit here and there. I mean, customers themselves for a new product are not very clear. And, it requires interpretation on the part of the entrepreneur as to what is the customer really trying to say is important to him and so on. So, but you need to have an engineering team that trusts that, when you as the CEO, you as the entrepreneur, you as the founder say, I think we need this particular capability in the product, or we need to change the direction so that we really focus on this. They are willing to give up all or change direction and put everything that they were doing on the side and move with you. I think I gave that case study here. I told you guys the story or not. But when Dino, after 3-4 years, we were trying to find a market segment. And, we tried all kinds of things for 3-4 years and just could not find a market segment that was going to grow, that was going to have a lot of, have some profitable business model behind it. And then I had on a Saturday afternoon, this guy from Kerala called me up and say, hey, I've checked out your website. I've tried out your product using kind of the online, all the stuff that we had put on our website. And I think that, your system, video streaming system might work for what I'm trying to do, which is stream, Malayali TV channels to the Malayalam diaspora all over the world. And there's about, 1 million or so people from Kerala who are all over the world. And he wanted to stream about a dozen Malayali TV channels from Kerala. So till that time, we never thought that that was a market. There was a market opportunity like this. I was going through Justin TV, which is allowing gamers to stream their games, or parents to stream their kids' birthday parties. I thought that was a market. I never thought that streaming real TV channels to a diaspora that is going to be willing to pay for it was going to be the real market. But I said, how much would you pay? And he said, I'll charge the customer $20 a month for his 12 Malayali channels, and I'll give you $5. All of a sudden, I had a viable business model because I knew that, my cost would probably be $1 a month, the way the costs were for video streaming, and I would make 80% gross margin on this. So Monday, I go to my engineers, who for the last 3.5 years have been developing, a system where 1 million people can stream from a video camera to 10 people here and 50 people there and so on, to where there are only 10 video streams, but going to 1 million people. So complete flip from 1 million channels going to 5 people each to 10 channels going to 1 million people. Complete flip, right? And so I brought the team together and I said, look, I had this strange conversation, and I think this is where the real opportunity for Dino is. And it really, if my team at that point had said, you can't get us to change everything, and to do it in 2 months. We've been working on this for 3.5 years. You expect us to do everything and change everything in 2.5 months? Because, this guy wanted to launch everything in 2.5 months. And I said, I think I can do it, because the engineers were good, but they had to have the confidence to change it. And I needed to have the confidence that they were going to do a full, solid, committed production job. And, finally they did do it. And, over 6 months, we had 600 TV channels and lots of customers. So, but pairing customer development and agile development is really more about an engineering team that is good, but also an engineering team that trusts the external inputs that are coming in, as interpreted by the salespeople, by the marketing people. It is having the trust and the confidence to listen or to accept the team that you have that is bringing in the external inputs, right? So it's really that. You agree?
Yeah, completely. I mean, in my case, also the same thing, right? I was telling that diversify, right? While we were very well known because of our experience in the PC industry, the microprocessors, the chipsets and everything, we knew what was happening in the industry. But then, I was realizing that, that's a fag end, right? So we need to transition to something else. So when we went to that time in the Valley, networking was the beginning to happen, right? So the first couple of the networking design, our team has to learn it on the fly. It is really right. I mean, it is we went literally sold a PowerPoint, and then afterwards, our team was running faster than, like it's the same pace as the customer. So during those transitions, it's important that your engineering team is as agile, right? And then be confident, right? I mean, it's not like that they have the attitude to learn and adapt new processes and new technologies.
Yeah, the next rule, which is failure is an integral part of search. The thing to realize as an entrepreneur is that probably for the first 1, 2, 3 years, almost every attempt that you make to get a sale is going to result in a failure. You won't get the sale. I remember, we tried to get business at Sun, and we failed. We went, at Siemens, we tried when I was at Selectica, and we failed. So it's failure is what really happens as an entrepreneur. And what's interesting is that a lot of people, when you fail, think that, oh, we are done. The company's done. And you get disheartened, and the team gets disheartened, and you get your the whole talent disperses away. But if you have an entrepreneur who understands that failure is really a stepping stone to success, and you successfully communicate that to your team so that they understand the logic of why the failure is a stepping stone to success, you'll realize then you can build a really successful company. So, for example, I remember with Selectica, we worked night and day on this RFP from Sun to build a configurator for Sun's products. And, we knocked out everybody, and we and the #1 company in the field, Trilogy, were the ultimate finalists, and we did a pilot, both of us. And our engineers, knew they were in uphill battle, and so they worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for at least 2 months. And then finally, Sun did not give us the business. In fact, We bid $3 million for that configurator, and our competitor bid $27 million for the same configurator. And the engineering team recommended Selectica, but the CIO chose the safe option, which is Trilogy, for $27 million. As a CIO, you've been a CIO. Is there a reason why safe is important for a CIO?
It depends. Who is the CIO reported to?
Yeah, okay.
Because some of us do take risks.
Yeah, okay. Very good point. And it's very important for an entrepreneur to actually find CIOs that take risk. The risk profile of the CIO is very important because the reason why a project can fail is sometimes not technology failure, but it's really everything else that a solution requires. You know, it needs support, scalability, reliability, maintainability, integration with the backend systems. There's 1,001 other things that a CIO who's got a business mindset besides a technical mindset has to think through before. So that's why, like, you know, they gave the deal for 9 times as much to our competitor and instead of us. And, you know, the competitor actually could not deliver. So 2 years later, the RFP came back into the marketplace, right? And you know, they had to redo it. So it's not that, you know, the safe choice is the right choice. In fact, it was the wrong choice. But, you know, how I was the CEO of Selectica, and our engineers know that they had done the best job. Nobody could compete with them. And they had the right answer. And yet we lost the deal. Now you have to explain to your engineering team why actually it is just not getting the deal is okay, and why. And you got to explain, you know, that we can lose a battle, but we are not going to lose the war. What it means is that, look, you guys work so hard for 2 months, but none of that work is going to be wasted. There's another 500 companies that have the same requirements that Sun has got, and now we know what those requirements are. So we'll be able to go to the next 499 companies with a much more mature solution, right? And but you know, we lost the next deal to Siemens. We lost another 8 or 10 deals, but every deal our solution became better. And after about 3 years, we became so good, a deal after that. And you know, that's how we got our $5 billion valuation, because we took the whole market, because our engineers kind of stuck to us, and every loss was actually a learning experience. So losses, failures should really become learning experiences.
You're right.
Right, okay. Thank you. Make continuous iterations and pivots. Again, that can only happen if you got a team that believes in you and trusts you, but also you're willing to continuously be open to inputs, whether the inputs are coming from the internet. These days, a lot of inputs come straight from the internet. You can read blogs, you can read posts, you can read this, that, everything. Internet is like a gold mine of information. It's for some consumer products in particular, but even for technology products, it's pretty much a gold mine of real-time information. But you know, sometimes the best information, people will not post it. It might be a trade secret, it might be some other issue, or you know, they just don't want to write about it. But you know, so inputs do come in from many places, and typically your sales team is probably one of the best places that you're going to get lots of good inputs from. And finding salespeople to go ahead and be those, you know, people who are continuously alert to, you know, the body language, or you're making a presentation and the CIO is talking on the iPhone or whatever, and he's just not impressed by you think it's a great feature, but nobody is paying attention to it or showing value. When some salespeople will say that that's because he doesn't get it or he didn't present properly, but the alert guy can say that I should give that feedback back into the company, that you guys are putting all this effort to increase the performance or to reduce the cost, but customers don't seem to care about what you think is very important. Customers are not paying much attention to it. I'm not getting any. Yes.
Yeah, I can add on this. So
Let me give you.
basically, when we talk about voice of the customer,
Just a minute.
two things.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, so when we talk about the customer input and co-development with the customer, basically there is a concept of voice of the customer. And some of you may have taken that course in your management classes, but basically it is the QFD, which is quality function deployment, which is considered as house of quality. So if you try to build that up, basically you are looking at what customer voice is, what their preferences are, where they pay attention, and what are their pain points. And then you compare your feature set to their requirements and say, against the competition, where do I stand? So it is like a benchmarking. You are benchmarking your development with the customer and knowing your competition. So all that could be put into one sheet of paper. Exactly like BMC that we are doing over here. Same thing you can do with the requirements of the customer and voice of the customer on one sheet of paper. And look into that. The other concept I can give you is value engineering. Quite a few of you must have heard that. But what is that? You are developing your product, your process, your solution with the help of not only the customer, but also the suppliers. Because suppliers have a lot of feedback to you. So listen to both suppliers as well as customers when you are defining the product.
Great. Yeah. Yes.
So when you're referring to customer, are you talking about somebody that's already committed to a sale or potential prospects as well?
Prospects. Yeah.
Exactly. Includes prospects too. It's
Absolutely.
not always customers. Yeah.
Rule number 5 was no business plan survives first contact with customers who use a business model canvas. Basically, your business plan is really not cast in concrete. Now, you raise your money, if you do VC funding or whatever, on a business plan. You give your 3-year projections and everything else, and that you're going to do this and that and everything. And yet, the very first time you try to sell and the very first order you get is for something that your customer is willing to give you a PO for is different than what you had on your business plan. And so the VCs here are actually quite understanding. They will understand that really it's not what was there in the business plan, but what really the market is willing to pay money for. That's what's important. So and then the key is to go ahead and update your business plan based on what ends up happening, right? So I would say that the reason why we are taking 2-step approach to actually making hard commitments, which is we are doing the BMC, business model canvas first, and then we are writing the business plan. The reason we are taking a 2-step approach rather than idea to business plan, which was the original way of doing things, is that the BMC gives you a lot of ability to quickly try out many different business models. You're not writing a 20-page document with all these spreadsheets and then, all of a sudden, instead of having 1 million customers going to 5 customers each, I've got to go to 10 streams going to 1 million customers, right? It's a complete, easier to do it on a BMC than to do it in a business plan. So, so basically, that's point number 5. Point number 6 is design experiments to test hypothesis. What that means is that, you know, when you do your BMC, for example, you have a model in mind. My customer is going to have these kinds of needs. These are the kinds of prices he's going to be willing to pay. This is the kind of time frame he would want the product in. You have some sort of a model in your mind as to how this whole thing is going to come together, right? And then you go to the customer and tell him that, you know, this is what your game plan is. You'll find that most customers will agree with you, even though inherently they don't agree with you. They'll, on your face, they'll say they agree with you, because that's a human tendency. The human tendency is to, if somebody comes in, you are the expert on networking, or you're the expert on software development or operating systems or whatever, and you come and say something, they have a tendency of agreeing with the so-called expert. And you are the expert because think of the amount of time you put in on a particular topic, on that particular topic versus the time that they put in, right? So they are more likely than you would expect. And you say, why don't you disagree with me? Especially if you have a product that you're trying to sell into places where the culture is non-confrontational. You go to, you know, go to Japan, you go to Korea, you go to many countries in Europe, they're non-confrontational. They don't believe in contradicting you. You know, they'll think you're an idiot, but they won't tell you that. that you want to do such a product or such a feature or whatever, but they just won't tell you. And you know that if you develop a product that is not right for the marketplace, you're going to fail anyway, because they're not going to buy it. They may not disagree with you, but they certainly won't buy it from you. So that's the worst outcome for your company. So essentially, you have to design experiments. So, you know, you'll find that design experiments is, you know, this thing called A/B analysis, right? You give the customer 2 choices. Do you want this or you want this? I can do both, you know. If you had to really prefer, which one, you know. So you give them actual things to choose from instead of telling them that, you know, this is what's right, yeah? So you have to design experiments in order to get the real answer from people. Because ultimately for an entrepreneur, he has to extract the truth in the marketplace. There is such a thing that is true in the marketplace as to, is there a price point to be hit, or performance to be hit, or functionality to be hit, or a time window to be hit, or, you know, delivery commitment that needs to be hit. There is such a thing as something that is very important. And it's your job as an entrepreneur to decipher that, because nobody's going to give you the answer till it's too late, right? Your job is to really find the truth of the business situation. Rule number 7 is agree on market type. It changes everything. So for example, you know, if you think you're selling a consumer product versus you're selling, I think a more common one is you're selling a SaaS product, software as a service, versus a licensed product. Totally different game plan. Totally different approach to selling, because the ASPs are so different. The way you reach the customer is different, and everything can change. So I'll give you a quick example. I was on the board of a company called AppStream. And this company developed a virtualization technique for applications. So it was basically what Citrix does, but even better than, it was better technology than Citrix. And so, I think the VCs plunked down close to $60 million in this company. It was rated as the hottest company at different shows and everything. And for the technology, it was developed by some Israeli engineers. And then they tried to sell it after developing the technology. And they hired expensive salespeople and everything, and just couldn't get traction. And so after putting in $60 million over 3 or 4 years, they could not get customers to, use the product or to get the thing off the ground. So the VCs were all ready to kind of give up because, there was nobody willing to buy this product for $2 million, $3 million license fee. So, they got rid of the CEO, they did this, that, everything. And then finally, the VP of engineering, Indian guy, he came to the board and made a plea. He said, I still believe in the product. I've developed this product. I know it's useful. Why don't you give me a chance to promote the product and sell the product? Because they've gotten rid of the CEO, got rid of everybody. They're ready to shut the company down. Within that board meeting or the next board meeting, we were going to shut the company down. And there was going to be a $60 million write-off. And so this VP of engineering pleads with the board, and he's never run a company. He's an engineering guy, and he says, but I really believe in this company, in this technology. So basically the board said, okay, we'll give you 6 months. But, we are not going to give you more than $250,000 more to go ahead and see whether it works or not. And so obviously he had only $250,000, so he had to get rid of the marketing guys, sales guys, CFO, pretty much stripped it down to 8 or 10 people. And but he still got to get the product out there. So he had got rid of his marketing guys, salespeople, no more conferences, no more advertising, no more email campaigns, nothing. So he just went and bought a few Google search words for virtualization and things for very specific. And the crazy thing is schools, needed to have the license one copy of Excel and have 40 kids use it, or one copy of Word and have 40 kids use it, or a database. And so, but they don't have $1 million. They've got, their budgets are more like $25,000, $50,000, and so on. And these poor, IT directors at these schools all over America need to solve this virtualization problem, and for $25,000 to $50,000. And so they started searching, and they started finding AppStream through the Google search. And so, this guy started, licensing his product out for $25,000, $50,000. And, within less than 6 months, he was cash flow positive because he had, the product was already developed, software product. He just puts it out there, and people, these IT directors were using it and putting it to work, and for $25,000, $50,000, and off and running. And within 6 months, it's cash flow positive company. But he had, and so obviously the board kept the company going, and the VCs kept the company going. Not that anybody thinks it's going to be worth anything, but you keep it running if it's cash flow positive, right? So they kept it running, and then Symantec salespeople found that every time somebody uses AppStream, these schools, they would also buy a security product. from Symantec. So Symantec salespeople told their marketing guys, hey, one easy way to sell our security product is to co-promote AppStream with it. So, so it's like Symantec came to AppStream. Marketing guys said, first they find out who's this AppStream. The marketing guys had no idea at Symantec that there's a company called AppStream. So they came to AppStream. They'd heard of Citrix, but Citrix wanted, $500,000 for the same job. And so Symantec marketing signed up with this VP of engineering to make him a marketing partner. And then they started promoting together the two products. And suddenly, this company was making $2 million a year in less than a year. And that was profitable because there's no cost of marketing, no cost of sales. Symantec is doing all the work. And he's just maintaining the product. So all of a sudden, it's a profitable company and growing. And so Symantec felt that, if they really bundled in AppStream and made it into a Symantec product and had 4,000 Symantec salespeople promoted, it could become worth millions of dollars for Symantec. So they came and offered $60 million for this company, and which obviously the VCs by that time were so tired of AppStream that they just sold it off for $60 million. They just got their money back. But the point is that you have to, as an entrepreneur, you can't be hung up on, hey, I'm a licensed market type. I've developed this technology for $60 million. I'm the best in the world. I've got all this, I'm going to beat Citrix in the marketplace. So I'm going to go head to head as a licensed model or whatever it is. You got to be somebody who's willing to change the market you're targeting, how you're targeting the market, price point, sales approach, distribution, everything is something as an entrepreneur you got to keep alert about, keep trying. Startup metrics differ from those in existing companies. So the message here is very clear. As an entrepreneur, the only thing that matters in the beginning is getting somebody to give you time of day when you talk about your product. You love your product, but that doesn't mean others love your product. So just finding people to even pay attention to you when you talk about your product, that's, requirement number one. Then at some point, you'll get past that. You'll find the right, who will generally like your product. So then it becomes like, okay, what should be the feature? What should be a price point? Getting your first sale. So the way you measure the success of your company, and I think AGK did a very good job of the three stages of the company, where you're just trying to get the company out there. And that'll typically be 1, 2, 3 years. And then it's like you're successful, but you're in the twilight zone because you're not making enough money to scale up. And it's too hard to give up this baby that you got off the ground, right? So that's the company where you're barely profitable. And you can just make the payroll, and your engineers are wondering whether, this company will ever take off, and investors are saying, are you going to be like, a company that can just pay salaries, or are you going to become something that's got an opportunity to grow? So basically, like, the metrics and how you measure your success will be different in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and so on.
I completely agree with Raj on that, right? So every year, what I used to do is to come up with the metrics, and then if you take a look at it over the years, what I am measuring changes. Initially it could be the type of employees that you want to hire, or it could be the type of technologies you want to create in the company, or the type of customers you want, or the markets you want to serve. But then whether you want later on, you start looking at, hey, are you making money? Where are you spending your money? So one thing that all of us need to, as entrepreneurs, is to continuously establish that metrics and be true to that. Ask that numbers. Where are we with respect to the number? We set the goal of meeting so much in booking this quarter, so much in billing this quarter, so much in collection this quarter. Make sure that you have those numbers not only in your heads, at your fingertips, but your core team. Everybody understands that number. Once they all understand the metrics, then that becomes a culture, right? And it needs to change, and it cannot be the same. At the various stages, it changes.
So let me give you a scenario here. Basically, you are a startup. Your metrics could be, how many more months can I go without salary, without pay? How many employees are not getting paid and is still working? And for an established company, it is totally different. What should be the merit increase? Every year people get merit increase. So they are looking at, should I give 2% or 10%? And you are thinking, can I keep this guy 10 more months without pay? So these kind of metrics are called dynamic. And you all know about dashboards, right? These are the key metrics that you want to keep for your company. And they have to be dynamic. With the time, they will change. And what you are measuring today is not what you will be measuring tomorrow. So just keep it dynamic.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, so rule number 9 is fast decision-making, cycle time, speed, and tempo. The thing to watch out is burnout. Your engineers can be burnt out if you keep, whiplashing them, keep changing direction on them. Today, we got to get our app on iPhone 6. Tomorrow, it's like, oh, we must get it on Android tomorrow, or we must get it on Microsoft because Microsoft just bought this cell phone line, and they are willing to pay us $1 million to get our application ported over to Microsoft. So your engineers can get burnt out by this, the speed at which the CEO is changing direction, and so on. So, actually, I've come to the rule that I want to sleep over a weekend or a few days before I change the direction on my team. I find that it's very easy to get excited when you meet a customer, or you find somebody who's willing to give you a PO as the entrepreneur. That you are, you have, you get swayed along with everything else. So I find that going ahead and just giving yourself a day or two before you share the news or change the direction on the team, and how you change the direction on the team. Do you change it by letting that information randomly flow through the company? Or do you bring everybody into the company and communicate it in a logical, sensible way? All that is incredibly important. It's too easy to jerk your team so much that all the good people are going to pretty much give up on you, and they will actually go to the board behind you and say that we want a different CEO. We've all seen that happen many times in VC-funded companies, and it happens far too often because it's really the maturity of the entrepreneur to know how to communicate with his own team. And so excitement is important, but communicating that excitement and directional changes and pivots and all that stuff, which is good, but has to be also communicated in the right way. Okay, so that is the only. Any agree?
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to add one to that, right? So, a lot of times it's not only you, right? You have a core team, and especially, I had this rule among our core team that you can agree to disagree in a closed room, right? 4 of us, 5 of us can have all kind of dialogues, challenge each other and all that stuff. But once a decision is made and everybody's saying, right? And I think one of the very, a lot of my employees have come and asked, how come you guys are all saying the same thing? How is that possible, right? That's because you establish, set the mutual expectation, correct it whenever it's not happening, but make sure that that culture is developed, right? You can agree to disagree because you need to have that camaraderie to challenge each other. But once it's done, everybody's saying the same thing, right? Now, that happens, when you make key decisions. I mean, I can tell you when we made a decision to not lay off anybody, when we had a big, revenue shrink from, 2001 to 2002, our idea was that we would have a message among ourselves, we'll brainstorm, and then we will get the next set of people that, perhaps our own direct reports or something like that. And then once, we clarify, why we are doing what we're doing, then we'll do an all hands meeting and then share it. So it was, to the pat, everybody clearly knew what to say. And then what happens is in companies especially, right, not everybody will come to you as CEO or as founders to come and share their concerns and all that stuff. By following this methodology in terms of how you communicate, like Raj said, you make a phenomenal, especially with tough decisions. Easy decisions is okay, but tough decisions like changing strategy, going on furlough, all that kind of stuff are very, very difficult things. You need to say why we are doing it, right? And that sticks with you very, very well.
Excellent. I think that's really important. Actually, one of the things that we did at Opti, I don't know if you remember, but at Opti, what we did is we had all the 4 founders of the company have their staff meeting on Saturday. And Saturday, the meeting could go as long as necessary, but we would not leave the meeting till we had a consensus on whatever decision we were making. And as a consequence, the 4 founders of the company who were running the 4 departments, I was running sales marketing, another guy was running engineering, another guy was running finance, 4th guy was the CEO. The 4 of us were always on sync on all the topics, the bonuses that we're going to give, or the hiring that we're going to do, or the new products we were going to develop, or the way we were going to compete, or whatever. All of those things, the founders or the executive team was in 100% sync. And that was incredibly, and that is incredibly important. I think I'd kind of not communicated as effectively as AGK did as to how important it is that the rest of the company, and especially the customers and your distributors and your salespeople, people who are away from the factory, should also hear the same message, right? In the right way. So that's something to really recognize about point 9. 10 is it's all about passion. I think the key message here is that, look, if you try to build a company just to make money, you won't succeed, in my opinion. Money can never be the driver of your passion, right? It's always a byproduct. I think you'll hear this from lots of people. The passion is something where you're willing to work night and day to achieve something, whether it's if it's a social startup, of course, social good, but more often than not, it's some better technology you want to deliver, or you want to get India to be in the hardware design business, or whatever your passion is. Like it would probably be much easier for AGK to have hired 3 hardware designers in the Bay Area. But he was passionate about kind of the core value of his startup, which was creating a hardware design team which would have the same cost effectiveness, scalability, ability to support, because of the ease of hiring, etc. If once he had trained manpower from his India team. And so it was really that passion that carried on and ultimately made him successful. So you've got to have passion about something. For my Selectica co-founder, he wanted to have the best configurator and best technology for a configurator. So Dr. Sanjay Mittal, he developed the technology in the 80s at Xerox PARC. For 10 years, he tried to start a company based on that technology. And he visited 40 VCs on his own. He would lug a whole PC because laptops were not available in the early 90s. He would lug a whole PC carrying that in order to give his demos at VC offices. For 10 years, he could not get people to buy into his idea and vision and everything else. And but he stuck with it. He stuck with it, till finally, Selectica took off, and he became his configurator technology became so famous, and obviously made a lot of money with it too. So it's all about passion is really what will keep you going, because it's passion, persistence, perseverance. Unless you have it and realize that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, an entrepreneur is not going to be successful. Startup job titles are very different from a company's. This is, you're going to have a hierarchy, but you want to be as flat as possible. You can tell people that, look, we need titles because, the bank needs titles, your business plan needs titles, but really none of that is important. What's important is, what each person can contribute. And, the compensation is also not going to be title-based. Compensation is going to be based on value, the value that somebody brings to the enterprise. And sometimes the value might be that he can work for sweat equity. For example, at Selectica, when we had started the company, we had no money, right? We had no VC funding, nothing in the beginning. And we hired this one engineer who was at the tail end of his career. He was, we're a young company, and here's a 55-year-old guy. He's worked in the Valley. He's worked for 30 years, made enough money for him and his wife. He can basically retire, but he wants to work in one more startup. And he said, he actually came, and we were looking for people who were good engineers, and this guy comes along and he says, look, the first thing he says is, I don't want a salary. So can you give me stock instead of salary? And so we gave him stock instead of salary. And you won't believe that when Selectica went public, he got the best reward of any other engineer. He made millions of dollars for the 1.5 years that he worked on stock equity, versus, VPs of engineering who would have made, $250,000 or 200K or whatever. So, but job titles are different from a company's, and which kind of leads us to the next one. And I think AGK's pitch was perfect. I'm not going to go. I think he said it all. Preserve all cash until it's needed. But then you've got to know when to spend. And like with Opti, you remember, we went and spent it all on getting as many chips as we could get in production chips, right? And Selectica, we did the scaling, etc. So when the time comes, you got to put your money on the table. You got to bet on that black horse, red horse, whatever horse it is. You got to bet when you know that, you've done everything. Now you got to go and invest. Communicate and share learning. I think, really, your team is really your best friends and the people that, are going to grow with you. So, essentially, I look at myself as a success as an entrepreneur only if the people who worked with me also become successful, not at my own company, but also on their own. And, AGK is a great example of that. But, Vasudev Bhandarkar, so many of the people that I've worked with have all become entrepreneurs or successful people in any which way. And, they've picked up something from me. I've picked up some things from them, but we've all become smarter, wiser, more successful, etc. So communicate and share learning, because ultimately you want everybody to become better and better. And the last point is that, once we've got a BMC that we believe in, and we have done all the validation and real customer meetings and test hypothesis and everything, then you bring the team together, educate everybody, get everybody to buy in to your business model, and then you write your business plan, raise your money, and just go for it, right? So the whole idea is that you got to get the team to buy into what you're trying, why you feel you're ready to go for it, right? Okay, so these 14 points are really important, and we are probably going to be, covering them one way or the other, and in the next 3-4 classes. But I'm sure you're going to run into all of these things as you start building your real own companies, and these are extremely valuable. Okay, so let's take a break for 10 minutes. At 9 o'clock, we'll start the BMCs. Yeah? Okay, thank you.
Very nice.
Close to 55 minutes long.
So let's decide. I think you and Shankar can do it. I'll do the channels.
All right.
I haven't sent it yet.
No, but why don't you look at this?
Very good.
Go through. These are the topics, okay, just from the name, because it doesn't have too much of the detail there.
Sure.
But these are the 12 teams, and you can tell me which one would you like to get in.
Okay.
So, and they are basically, yes, they are sorted. So bold canvas, tri-square, right? Just from the names, maybe you can pick one.
Sure.
I will see you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Idea number 8. So it's kind of like he wasn't there. Present the BMC, but the thing is like questions and things like that. It's not just the fashion, but if there are requests here, we also don't know many details about it. Your own investors. So that was the question. Slowly try to even if it's doing it alone, I would not like this guy, he was writing a book, or one of the area that you want to focus on is forming the team. So if you say, if you take a look at all the historical successes over the years in the valley, take a look at it, companies with either 2 to 3 founders, if it's less than 2 chances of surviving law. It's not like, for example, is always relevant. We take a distribution of it, we can do like 2 to 4. On the other side, if it's more than 5, also it's too many books on it. 2 to 4 is very good. You should find that word of 2 to 3 years. It's not never to find a company that's similar to you, that you could acquire and say that we do equal ownership of the company, which is merged. Suddenly not only became bigger, you also have another partner. So that could be complementary. Let's say if you're running services business, let's focus on ERP. Supply chain. It could complementary things. You go to the same customer, you do more services. But you need to be prepared at that point in time. It's no longer your gig, right? It's not a one-man show. How to connect with
Yeah, I'm not going to say so I'll be doing that today, last but I'll be very much I've connected with the whole campus, so today I'm presenting for them, and then they will be so I'll be very much interested in class, and I'd love to see how to do it. Actually, it's so I was creating the games my ideas
so that was one. So much.
Some states.
All this. concerns, or wasting time. No, but it's, otherwise you spend 6 months talking to them, and then really sure. Same thing. And also I make sure that and something else.
Yeah. There is a point where the product and the market is right, and
दोनों पहले बताओ it's a 2 year clip. Equity value is investing 6 months, I'll get all the sales. I didn't share it. 2 years, believe me, before 2 years, you don't get anything. Right? And I said 7 years.
Yeah, we can trade out.
Yeah, just because of these sort of large and my rest of the founder. That's the rule of right off the bat, there's an expectation. This is a long play. It's a 7-year run. It's no longer 4 years. There's a and also it's a learning. It's something. I gave it to be early. Right? At the end of 4 years, the guy was only vested, bye-bye, the job, you're still continuing to talk about it, all you're doing, right? So, I also want to understand what if I don't do you all on things as a family. Right? As long as, I mean, that is very personal, right? If I don't know the answer, then I'll say, maybe I'll have you in the right time, or you want to. That's another thing. Yeah, I mean, so people are in it for the long run, and they know. He's never took salary 24 months. But third year, I take all the money back, 24 months, so I took salary, all paid up. So I have to speak in peace because I don't think there's no and they make the sacrifice. They also
I did that. I had them.
These are some of the things. Again, it's principle, right? What do you, end of the day, you need to
so I found like so I don't mind saying that. But in my mind, I'm much more.
from the copper, it doesn't
So you have this little instant start dropping prices as you
Oh, yeah.
So I was in action, I was wonderful.
That's what the Thai organization is called, right? I've been listed with. How much of you attended Thai?
Sure. I guess okay. It's like a fashion
So it's an organization, whatever you get.
and another so like I mean how do you get so how do
Yeah, I know that.
That's what I work on. What I'm trying to do is that's not and if I was counting around to fix and that improves. I think that back end is something you get more involved with. Yeah. That's true. Or they'll encourage them to get onto this. No, but I'm thinking like, I guess I'm thinking like long-term, this is like 10 years old.
It all depends on
Yeah, I think the 10 years. That's yeah, eventually. Yeah, no, I agree. That's the thing. I'm not saying it needs to be there now. It's just
Okay.
Well, at least we've done something.
Did you see
Yeah, go ahead, send it. Escape, I have it too.
Okay, I'll send you right away.
Perfect. Okay, so first one is table name. Title advisory is the next one. Guys ready? Yeah, please say.
No, the whole thing is going to be up there. From what I understand. No idea. I'm right now doing it in it has a very good
oh yeah, that's
good thing about
right.
it is working and studying.
It's like mostly
You can stretch it.
but I think
I've seen him in school, like,
How is the weather?
She
wrote me again separately that she is now doing that job at
Yeah.
right? So that innovation can
I know, I saw your message.
but she said like at some point that marketing.
Which market? The one she's doing. Hello?
I wrote you an email also.
Okay, guys, let's go.
I wrote you an email. Others
Yeah, why don't you read? I think you should continue. Do it, yeah. It doesn't matter. Startups happen all the time.
and they already have an MVP, so maybe other
No, they didn't really do anything. It's just 2 weeks they wrote a little Android app. Don't worry about it.
where would we get things?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, let's just go down this list. So what we'd like is get the whole team to come over, and then the person who's going to do the pitching, I'll give him this thing.
We have 3 people speaking. We have to change.
Then you can use the hand mic, yeah. And maybe the main person can use this, yeah? Okay, so Tiber. Where's the Tiber team?
I'm the only one here, the rest of the team is not.
Can you go and get them?
Only one more guy.
Go and get him. Get him. Okay, come on over, guys.
Yeah, I already told the story, that's just 2 of us.
Okay, so who's the main speaker?
The main speaker is not here.
No, but one of you is going to be the main speaker.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Sure.
Is that how it is? That's it. Do we have the slide deck? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so try to do this in about 5 minutes. And start off obviously with the value proposition.
Yeah.
And then the customer segments, customer side first.
Okay.
Then how the first value proposition.
Right.
And what kind of company, product, customer segments, infrastructure, and then a little bit about the cost structure if you want.
Sure.
Stay on this side of the.
And stay right here, both of you, because
Okay.
that's the way that we'll get you on that video.
Okay.
And
Why did it just stop working?
okay,
And you're Shashita, right?
go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Here we are without the founder, the main guy. We'll try our best. We have no clue what is the technology behind this. All we know is how does it really work in a business scenario, right? So I was asking in layman terms what exactly you're trying to solve. I would perhaps try to explain the exact same thing what I understood from it, right? So my name is Siva, and
my name is Sashi.
Shashi. So we're going to present TIV data. TIV meaning the Sanskrit meaning, which is, it's a TIV, very fast, performance, high performance, right? So that's how you got this name, in a sense that when you want to really send the data, high performance, how do you do it? TIV. That's the concept behind that. So the industry problem, I mean, we all know Internet of Things and everything. I think I don't want to get into the technology because I have no clue how the technology works. But I'll just give you an example, the layman terms, right? Let's say the oil company trying to drill oil, like a British oil, whoever, right? They would have the equipment, try to drill and everything, and say they're going to go like a kilometer down. All of a sudden, they're trying to hit something, and you got to stop the engine. Layman terms again, right? So how do you really understand that there's some problem and you're going to get stuck, right? So the sensors. So sensors are actually going to give you some sort of a signal saying that, okay, you're going to hit the obstruction now, you need to stop it. So the current industry standards, the sensor data, in order to even reach to the destination where they're actually going to make these decisions, it's very slow because it's a satellite link. And the technology what our founder is trying to come up with is actually going to boost that performance to 20 times, in a sense that if you really need to reach your destination where you're going to make the decision, using this booster kind of a device, assume that you have some sort of a software in a box that's really going to, pass this data to the destination so you can make the decision. So it's more like a booster device. So what we're going to develop is just the software, but we're going to have manufacturers who are actually going to give us the technology, which is the hardware, like Cisco kind of companies. Okay, so that's the problem that we are trying to solve. And who do we sell to? We're not going to sell to the British, the British gas and all that, because they're not going to come to us. They would go to the actual installers, the solution providers, like L&T kind of companies who are trying to, provide the entire end-to-end solution. So we're going to sell to them, and also we're going to sell to the the Cisco kind of companies who are OEM partners. So that's the reason why we got these customer segments. And the relationship that we're going to have, again, we're not really going to go talk to the customer. It's all going to be driven through these partners that we identified, the solution, the installers, or whoever is going to provide the solution. Those people are the people who are actually going to talk to the customers. And the channels, again, the same thing. Nobody's going to come to tivdata.com and then try to purchase it. It's all going to be the direct relationship that's going to be there between the customers and the solution experts that they're going to work with, right? And how do we make money? So it's pretty plain simple. Let's say you got 1 million sensors data that you want to really get the data out from, right? You may have to have, say, 100 devices that's actually passing this data. So you would have to really go with the tier pricing, in a sense that, per instance, the pricing, and also some sort of a maintenance fee that you have to charge per year, right? So very simple. And the key activities, we all know that we need the software, we got to develop it. That's the main activity, and the resources are pretty much as the developers. And the customer acquisition, meaning sales and marketing, is the activity that we're going to do. So that's another cost that we're going to have, the key resources that we're going to have. And of course, the infrastructure, the hardware and the software and everything, right? Again, the key partners. So it's not that we are really going to go outsource everything, but perhaps we have a way to really outsource some of it, the UX design and everything. And also the solution partners would have to partner with us, because at the time of development, we have to really test the product. So that's the reason why we have to have the key partners while solution development. And the cost structure is pretty simple. It's just the development cost and the customer acquisition cost. So bottom line, we're going to make billions of dollars out of this without the founder. So if you want to join us, this is the opportunity for you. Okay, that's all. Oh yeah. Any questions? Easy ones, please.
He's selling the product.
He's gone to meet a customer, so he's getting the real money.
So actually, he is actually selling.
He's really selling.
Yeah.
Customer meeting. Yeah.
So that kind of, that's excellent.
Right.
So you said you want to make this speed 20 times faster, right?
Right.
So what is the time? Like, are you speaking in milliseconds, seconds, hours, minutes, current time?
Sorry.
Yeah. So it's actually a real company. So it's all the secret sauce, which we also don't know. Only the founder knows.
We are under
So
NDA.
so we some of us don't know also.
Yeah. So he's got some patents. He said our solution really works much better than the other solutions out there. So we just have to trust him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Okay. I see. It's a good feedback.
I think what you will probably find in a company like this, I mean, the business model canvas is pretty straightforward because, he's selling through he's got a breakthrough product. But previously, everybody was 1x, they are 20x. So the point is, like, to the extent that that is the key success factor. Is that the real value proposition that'll convince the channel partners who are going to take that thing to actually put it in there? So, will reliability become the real issue? Maintainability of this IoT sensors be the real issue? Or is performance the real issue? So all of those things you can only find out when you meet a real customer. And you do some real cross-checking, because everybody say, yeah, 20 times faster, and you're not going to increase the price for me? Fine, I'll take it. But the point is that will he really take it, right? So that's the question that you really need to figure out the answer to. Because otherwise, it should be an automatic. The cost doesn't go up, but if you find that to get the 20x performance improvement, if your cost went up 40x,
so we
got a challenge. Right? And now the question is something worth twice the price, or maybe even 4 times the price?
Right. Giving more value, 20x.
When you're hitting some real performance numbers, right? So, a product like this, you're going to value price it because the market is small. Till they come up with other market segments that need this kind of throughput. So when a market is small and you're providing a high value added product, you want to do value pricing. Now, is the problem that is being solved if it's going to save that oil drilling company $20 million or $100 million. But your cost of making this device is, say, only $100,000. Should you be satisfied with the 50% gross margin? If it's really saving that customer $100 million, should you be happy with $50,000 profit?
No.
And obviously, you want to get a bigger share of the savings, right?
Yeah.
And to get that bigger share of savings, you think your partners Cisco is willing to give you that, or they'll say, oh, you're 3 engineers, why do you need more than $50,000? From Cisco, you know that. Never give it. Cisco is going to keep that $5 million cost savings, or value add, so to speak, because of Cisco's behind this product.
Yeah.
So the point is that the challenge for companies like this is going to be how to extract value for the service you're providing. And you may find that, yes, you can get to 100% of the market, sell all your products, saturate the market, and you made only, $500,000, but your market is saturated and it's finished. And now you have to design another product for another market before you can retire, right?
So that's a good point.
So all of those things really have to be thought through in the business model canvas. So the business model canvas is not, this is kind of, the first cut at it. But as you start thinking about it as like a real businessman, you'll find that success for an entrepreneur is actually in the details. It's like, overall this thing, is a good first cut, but I don't think you and your partners have really extracted the true understanding of how you're going to build a company around this. Make sense?
That's absolutely right. I mean, this is just a very 30,000 feet high, and whatever we could capture. And I mean, he's a technical guy. He doesn't know the business. I think ultimately you got something out of it. But you're right in the sense that there's a tremendous opportunity for the vertical industry solutions. So he's going to build a horizontal, and he's going to rely on all the other solution experts to build the vertical segment solutions. Additional revenue is going to come in. And when it comes to the current industry solution, like Microsoft has got a solution, it seems, that costs like 2.5 million or so just for the license, which is huge for a small set of industry setup. So with this solution, he can not only cut down the cost, he can actually improve the performance tremendously.
Yeah, but see, that's the biggest mistake that small companies make, which is the reason why Microsoft charges $2.5 million is because there are only probably 20 customers.
Mm-hmm.
So just a $50 million market segment.
Right.
And, they don't want to make it into a $5 million market segment by selling it for $500K.
Sure.
They don't want to, they want to, so really, the mentality of Far East manufacturers and people with an Indian mindset is to do cost plus pricing, even for value-added markets.
Right.
And, that's disastrous for the market itself. You're destroying the market. You're not only destroying your success, but you're trying to destroy everybody's success. So basically, that is what you're trying. That is what you end up doing. Now, sometimes there are unintended consequences of doing that, which is when you slash the price by 90%, more markets that were not previously willing to consider this start using it, and there's a pull, and your product gets sold into different markets that didn't even exist, which is, how Far East manufacturers in general have become so successful in some market segments. They just slash the price, and then all of a sudden, market segments come out of the woodworks that did not even expect to use this technology, now start using this technology, right? To build toys, to build other products, whatever. So I'm not saying that, slash and burn is not a bad strategy. But it's a strategy that you have to apply, the more you can think about it before you apply it, rather than just do it, the better.
Agree.
Yeah? Okay, let's go to the next one. Good one.
Thank you so much.
No, yeah. Yeah. First button. Yeah. Click that.
I'm trying.
No, I think you clicked this button.
Right. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
there we are. So next one is
Vitals.
Vitals Advisor. And Reena, you can look for these guys. These are your team members. Come on over, guys.
You are the main?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why does that
Let's put that in your pocket or on the shoe. And you want to just open this. Second one. Okay. Is this the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's the microphone and
here's the
Okay.
Tap on your tongue.
Okay. Vitals Advisor is just an analytics and aggregation platform for medical data. And the main value proposition is to give timely alerts to medical patients with specific medical conditions about certain compliance issues with the prescription provided by the physician, or it could be some vital sign that is going beyond control. So that's the main idea behind the system. And we are trying to make it cost effective for individual caregivers. For example, one of your family members has a medical condition and you would definitely be interested in knowing more about what is happening with his particular prescription. Is he visiting the doctor regularly? What is his vital sign at any point in time? Has he gone through with the medicine on time? Has he taken it? So this system would help you keep track of those important aspects of personal health for patients. So the next value proposition is device agnostic. We are trying to make it make the data acquisition device independent, in the sense that we are trying to take in data from offline as well as online devices. And since it's physician, it is going to be regulatory compliant and physician certified, people can rely on this particular information. And we are mainly focused on the customer-driven specific needs. That is, if a particular patient has, for example, diabetes, we are going to focus, we are going to develop profiles for each one of these medical patients, and then we develop the sensors or the data that is needed, and we use that to model the behavior, and we're going to go based on that. So the key customer segments, population with specific medical conditions, insurance companies, hospitals, labs, and individual caregivers, of course. And physicians with the individual practice. So most of the physicians, if you see, they are small. There are many small physicians that group together and form a company and then offer the medical care. And they normally cannot scale beyond a certain level to build devices and services like this for their patients. So by partnering with them, we can achieve the economies of scale. At the same time, we'll be able to reach a wider market segment. And the key to customer relationship is the patients have control over their medical records, and they own the data. And we get permission from the, they enter the data that they have, or they give us permission to get the data from the physicians who are working with them. And so the onus is really on the patient to provide the data and make sure that they give us the access required. And co-creation, the data is co-created along with hospitals and labs along with the individual patients themselves, if they have certain devices with them that helps monitor their condition. The channels through which we are going to market this service is, of course, hospitals, insurance companies, and we are planning to have a public website which would allow people to log in directly and then discover our services.
Okay, I think, yeah. Any comments, guys?
So your segments and channels are a mix of B2C, B2B, different things. So how do you envision like mixing and matching them and scaling them?
So initially, to start with, we are going to just go with B2B. We're going to directly talk to individual physicians and labs and hospitals, and use the data which is already present, along with, I mean, they have control over their patients, and in case if they're interested in such a partnership, they can potentially convince their patients to allow them to share the data with such service.
These hospitals and most of these companies already have some IT system like Epic or something like that.
Yes.
Why would they want to? They are in these IT departments. They are not. These are hospitals. They are, their job is to actually see patients and give care. They are not an IT company per se.
Exactly. So
they want to work with a startup.
No, you gave the answer, right? I mean, they are not IT companies, and they don't have the they don't want to keep updating their technology, and mainly the data here is going to be in the hands of the patient. So in case if he wants to get a second opinion, it's up to him. He can visit another group of physicians. He can use the same data, and he can keep a tab of what is happening with his health. So the responsibility of the data lies with the individual, and he knows whether he's complying with the prescription of the physician or not. And the individual caregivers are also informed about their compliance at any point in time, and that gives a lot more security in their minds. But from the perspective of hospitals, I'm not talking about multi-million-dollar hospital groups initially. We are going to target physician groups with less than 10 physicians, where there is not many sophisticated solutions that they can offer directly to their patients. So either the insurance companies have to take care of this, or they cannot provide such a service to their patients.
Have you guys thought of HIPAA compliance, for example?
Yes.
How will you go about that?
Oh, that's the main key. I mean, during the development phase, we need to work with the existing medical records that are being maintained, and we need to maintain that same level of compliance. Otherwise, the physicians won't share the data with us.
See, the outpatient offices. I used to work for a company called G Healthcare. Most of them are outpatient offices are paper-based. Still, a lot of them paper-based.
Exactly.
The converting is a big challenge today.
Yes.
And everything is silos, right? Labs are in different locations. They are in different. So again, IFA compliance to play. It's a mess actually. It's a whole. So we built a healthcare exchange where they can exchange, but G acquired, but they don't.
Okay, but it's a small starting point. Along with the devices that are coming up and the technologies that are falling in place, slowly, eventually, these have to move towards electronic format. So.
There's a law, but I don't know. Still, I see that every office I go, doctor, everybody still paper-based.
Right.
How many of them? Hospitals, yes, the Epic and all, they are there.
What is the incentive for these providers to promote? What I see the incentive is, and don't get me wrong, because I'm a practicing physician myself,
I see the benefit is that we are so overworked with so many patients that what the effective nature really would be is that it's personalized medicine. Now the patient is in control of his own health, because many times what happens is the family members and people are not aware of what's going on with diabetes or high blood pressure and stuff. They just go to the doctor and depend upon the doctor. So we can maybe give notifications on their cell phones. And I'm obviously, I would love it as a physician, somebody gave me something like that on a platter, because now my clients are getting information like, hey, you better take care of your diabetes, you're not under control, I have all your lab results. So I think to a particular extent, it will work really fine because the patient is now in control. And then the patient feels that the doctor is taking more care of them, which they are unable to do so because they have so many clients.
Yeah, I mean, no, the key is actually, you may have a cardiologist that actually all the data actually that is, the labs collect the data, but nobody's operating and correlating that data. So, I mean, if you have labs got all this data, but it's not digitized. I mean, we're not going to be aggregating, but I mean, we would be working on analyzing that data. It's just like the aggregation. I think you talked about, aggregation will happen and through the partnerships. But the key is really if you have the labs for neurologist, dietitian, or cardiologist, and being able to look at the vitals and correlate and try to figure out, who are the patients that actually at the risk of getting a condition of some sort.
Diabetics, you can know right in the front, and then they could be informed, and they could actually be tested, and we could be saving a lot of lives and a lot of people. That's what I foresee.
So I would say that, clearly the value is there, but I think the challenge here is going to be to find how pressing the value is and for which specific market segment. I mean, so your challenge is going to be, right now, you say hospitals, individual caregivers, it's too broad. And so I would say that, in all these BMCs, I think this is probably a problem we're going to see across the board. But it's better to find a problem that is very important to solve for somebody rather than a general problem that everybody feels they may have. So try to find a problem that people must solve. And maybe it's only, 25 people or 500 people or 1,000 people. But if you can find a problem that people must solve, who they are, and you provide a solution that is the best that they can use and that they can find, I think you're on your way to building a real company. So, I think, obviously this is very good for a first cut, but I think the key is to now focus and zoom in on exactly which particular value proposition for which particular customer
segment,
and which particular, how are you going to reach that customer, and what are the things that you're going to do that's going to be different and unique and special that will make it a must-have product, right? So you really want to get your BMC to reflect that. Do you guys get it?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we included a lot of this stuff because, it's going to be part of the growth plan.
Bigger expansion plan.
Yeah. So the first thing we got to do is see whether we can get from step 1 to 1.1. So we're not getting, yeah. So that's the whole goal of this BMC exercise, to find something that somebody must have where you're going to make money when you actually sell it, right? So we don't want you to design something that somebody may have and, they'll barely give you any money that you're going to ever make a profit.
No,
that's not the market segment you want to go after.
Right. So the original thought process behind this idea is to provide an integrated set of analytics parameters that definitely will provide a value to the patient. For example, if you have an elderly person at home, and you don't necessarily go accompany them all the way to the hospital all the time, and you don't know whether they're taking the medicines properly or not. So
Yeah, but what
that
you'll
is
find is when you interview that elderly person, you might find that they don't even want to look at their hands, look at their reports. They don't even want to read the computer. Maybe they have eyesight problem. I mean, the thing is that you're going to have to zoom in and find not a problem that you think exists, but a problem that exists that people are willing to pay money for.
Got it.
And you're going to make some profit.
Got it.
That's what we are trying to do in this BMC.
Got it.
Right? Okay, good one.
Yeah.
Next one.
All right. W eat right. We eat right? All right. We eat right. So just one E.
Set it up.
Here you go.
Okay. So our mission is to make it true that we can all say we eat right. Our value proposition is, particularly we have B2C and B2B customers, and the value proposition is different for two segments.
Oh,
So it's slides. So just on it. So to our B2C customers who are actually going to be the user of our platform, our value proposition is four-pronged. So we are trying to provide a lot of convenience in terms of logistics to make them successfully follow a diet plan, which becomes live in their life, and then provide tracking and benchmarking abilities so that they can see how they are progressing. Provide a lot of insight, recommendation, information, notifications so that the chances of their success increases. And finally, we think that eating right is a social activity with the family in the center and friends as motivation. So that's our value proposition there. On the B2B side, we know that the healthcare payers and providers are up against reducing cost of care. And they also have the responsibility of managing a healthy population. And those are the two value propositions that we'll have towards the B2B care. Apart from that, a third part would be to improve the quality of the care when the provider has information of the patient's eating habit. And again, as I said, on the customer segment, we have two sets of customers. Our B2B customers, particularly, we have zeroed in on two segments. One is where the users have chronic medical conditions like obesity, heart disease, or diabetes. The second segment is the families with age group 25 to 45 who have kids, they're busy in life and they don't watch what they eat, and they are test conscious, they're foodie. We need to bring them on track. So this is more of a preventative measure for them, while it is more of keeping them safe when it comes to the chronic disease patients. On the B2B side, our customers are mostly health plans. Health plans are our first target, and then healthcare providers, gyms, health clubs will follow.
Okay, yeah. So on the channel side, so how do we reach our customers? It's typically going to be through apps. So it's going to be typically through apps, Android, iOS, and a desktop application. And we'll go through direct sales. So we'll have our website, and we'll also go through a reseller or distributor channel, which would be the healthcare IT vendors and partners. And then there'll also be a social marketing aspect to it in terms of people recommending it to others by word of mouth. So that's for customers. For users, we'll do pretty much the same thing. So go to the next slide. Okay, so customer relationships, how are we going to acquire customers? Typically by marketing, and then customer retention is going to be done by making it convenient, easy to use, provide cost savings to the end user or to the provider, healthcare provider. And then also the overall health benefits of using the app itself will be another way of retaining the customer. So one of the things that we will do is create customer profiles. So we'll understand customer profiles and provide tailored services or recommendations for each and every customer.
So revenue stream for B2B customers, it will be a free app most of the time. And once they look for advanced insights, they can pay a subscription price, which will be a premium version. On the B2B side, we will have licensing revenues from integration of the product with the wellness programs of some of the health plans. We will have long-term revenue stream, which will be based on identity-based targeted marketing, because we will know, which nobody knows today, as to who eats what. So that will be our revenue stream on the B2B side.
Okay, so comments.
So we are not selling food. We are telling what to eat.
Yes, we are helping people to eat right. So telling them what to eat is not also completely right. So it's kind of providing them tools in their journey to follow a healthy diet. Sure.
So one thing I think I'm just, and this is more just a question, I don't have any experience doing anything really, so one thing that pops up to me is a little bit in terms of like your revenue streams seem, it just seems like there's a lot of different options and maybe all of them are possible. Like, are you guys planning to focus in on one? Because I know you mentioned.
Well, as I said, right. So see, health plans are already integrating wellness programs to their offerings today. And many of them follow an evidence-based integration with health benefits. So that if a patient is following certain wellness practices, they provide discount on the premiums. Right. So that's our first target, because I think with that, we will have a huge base of users that we will be able to acquire. But at the same time, in the B2C space, we would like to launch our product as a free so that we can gain some traction and initial feedback so that we can improve our platform.
So how are you planning to get that evidence though? And the question comes up because for me, I'm in the medical device side.
Sure.
For some of our products that I've witnessed, it takes anywhere from 5 to 10 years to get the evidence, to then make the case for a health plan to pay. So, and maybe you have an answer, maybe you don't, but that's something to think about. Like,
so from, if you talk about the health plans perspective, it is like as long as they are following the diet that has been, say you are a diabetic patient, or I am a diabetic patient rather than you are. And say I go to my doctor and he gives me a health diet, right? I'm obviously insured. So my onus is the health plan can make me accountable that I follow the diet plan and I show reasonable amount of progress in following that. If I don't, then I don't get a discount. So that's the evidence that health plans will have towards deciding whether they will provide me a discount or whether they will charge me a premium on the premium.
But most of the health plans provided by the corporate employees.
Right. And that's where you already see that the wellness programs have been channelized through the employer side. And so when you go for open enrollment, you now already have a cycle where you have to certify certain things like you don't smoke. So that's kind of an evidence you provide that you don't smoke, and that based on that, you pay a lesser premium, right? Yes. Let me take that.
Yeah, so I was wondering how you differentiate this company with other major companies in the market, such as Weight Watchers and Nutrisystem, who do similar services.
So Weight Watchers, we have looked at competitors. There are, first of all, there are companies who solve a part of the problem, okay, and still makes people, they are not able to provide all the set of convenience. So everyone is taking a stab at it, but they have not reached there. The second part of, yeah.
So if I could just jump in, Weight
Sure.
Watchers is targeted at a specific plan. They're trying to sell their food, right? Their diet plan as well. So it doesn't address a generic need to watch and manage your diet.
Right.
But how do you, so I don't have a question, but a comment.
Sure.
On the customer segment. I was thinking maybe government could be another venue through which you can actually communicate.
Yeah.
Because they got a lot of healthcare industry.
Right. I think like particularly I have experience with dealing with government, and I think that's a long running process. So initially we know that health plans are already, they have taken a step towards wellness, and that's to their incentive. It comes to the providers as well, because they have responsibility to manage a good population health, and that's where they're getting incentivized by the government. So the government is also connected in the process. And if we can win the health plans or healthcare providers, we have the inroads.
See, my one question.
Sure.
How you will keep tracking like what I mean?
That's the secret. That's where all the technologies will come into picture. So we will use big data. We will use all our intelligent algorithms. We will build all of that.
I think his question was, how would you track if the patient is the data or
So that's the problem to solve, really. And I believe, as you are seeing any big data solution in the market, you don't get the most accurate result from the day one, but you get a 70-80% accuracy, which gives you a good amount of traction to show where you are, whether you are totally off track or you are on track. And that's where I think the maturity of the platform will be, in terms of how we utilize technology and leverage that as we go forward to make it more and more accurate.
Okay, so again, you guys have to focus, right? So first of all, first comment is that you're either a B2C company or a B2B company, and since consumers are so important, but your real customer will pay you the money is the B, you can be something called a B2B2C customer.
Right.
So position yourself probably as a B2B2C customer.
Right.
If the C is not going to really be somebody who's going to pay you money.
Right.
So make it a B2B2C company,
and
right?
that's kind of
so
settled in our
C is
thoughts.
really marketing,
Right.
And promotion.
Right.
So you just want to pull.
Right.
So that's one comment. The second is that you don't want to boil the whole ocean, right? This is boiling the whole ocean. You want to zero in on some specific segment and value and based on some insight or technology or big data or cloud data or whatever it is, that you are going to make a difference. Otherwise, there'll be 1,000 questions as to why you'll be successful, because, so find a very narrow, specific market segment where whatever you've got, technology or solution or insight or whatever value add you have, can be applied with punch.
Right. And I think for us, that customer segment are people with medical conditions like obesity, heart disease, or diabetes.
But that's 30% of US population.
That's true.
That's still too big.
Probably we should look for a subsegment within that who are into a situation where maintaining a good diet can benefit them a
and
lot.
who's willing to got the ability to pay, and who's knowledgeable about what you're doing, and who's reachable and all that stuff, right? So you got to really zero in and focus your BMC.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Going for the pregnancy diet, you have a high incentive.
Yeah. See, there's a good
Very
one.
good input.
Excellent.
Yep.
Okay.
Well
good.
taken.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, come on, bring your group.
Next one is Tri-Square Sense.
By the way, another reason to do it on one chart is that it's going to get you to focus. When you're on a PowerPoint, very hard. Yeah, maybe he's not downloaded it.
He says he sent it.
Did you send it on Gmail or raj@jasper.com?
Rajesh? When I saw it on your email on the very top.
Okay. Oh,
among the first ones.
this one?
No. Now it's at the, but I was the first few to send. Yes, sir, right, a business model.
Oh, BMC, this
No,
one?
no. Yes.
Oh, this one, okay. Oh, very first.
Well, they're all called PM.
Go ahead.
I think I will just transfer the mic.
Okay.
Start.
Okay, guys, get closer here.
On this side of the
red blue line.
Okay. I'm Rajesh Penderkar, founder of Try Square Sense. The value proposition, next slide.
Yeah, you can just take this one.
So the value proposition for this company is real-time feedback to optimize performance. So having done triathlons, we know, although you are a professional athlete or amateur, you still, whenever you are doing any races, you are trying to optimize your performance. Currently, the multi-sport is becoming very much popular, and you all know how there are multiple devices in the market currently in the wearable space. So we are in this space, but we are targeting a very focused channel. So first is whenever you want to wear any app, iPhone app like we are running, we get a lot of feedback. Your average rate, your speed, your calories burned. But you come home, you download, and you see all this feedback. Our value is we get a real-time feedback. Our activities is getting tracked through our devices, which you can wear either on a bike or on your body. And it will give you sort of immediate feedback how to maneuver the upcoming obstacles or how to increase your speed. That is our current proposition. And it's an intelligent feedback. So you can have a data process which can be used later also. This can be also extended to second application where we can track the health conditioning, especially before starting the race or in the race. There are certain things you forget. This device is going to track and give you the feedback as early as possible. So our customer is very focused, and we know what customer target we are targeting. They may be amateur or professional athletes, but it's like all B2C space. And channels, we plan to have a direct sales to web page, and currently all these marketplaces where you can get the, like Best Buy, you can get wearable devices. That will be also our partners. And Sandesh will cover the next customer relationship.
Right. So for customer relationships, basically we figured, okay, from athletic standpoint, the people we want to start building relations is with race organizing bodies, with race directors. They can help us get our variables into their registration package. So, upfront, if you go and work with Boston Marathon, all these other marathon directors, you can actually get those into packets where you can, through that, you can, sell it as part of the race registration fees. There's also specialty sports. Specialty sports is really anything that's more specific to either, I don't know, Winter Olympics or whatever it is, you're doing snowboarding, skiing, any other activities. And people who sell specific equipments. If you're doing skiing, whether you can sell it through through all the Rossis or any of the other race equipment guys, right? So those are our customer relations. We'll do it with specific sport retail vendors or through race organizing bodies. Revenue streams, we said, okay, you know what, we'll try to phase it. We'll put it in 3 phases. The first phases will be one-time revenue as a product sale. We'll say, okay, this is the device. This is what we have made it as a wearable. It'll have its own product design as differentiating factor, and we'll sell it through website or through Amazon, So that's phase 1. It's very focused, getting it to a price per sale. To increase it, we said, okay, we'll do a subscription-based pricing. What we could do on top of the variable is we can get users to get either their Kaiser Permanente or United Health or whatever it is, right? Your health records to associate it with the variables. So where you are monitoring your health while you're exercising, while optimizing, and it also, there you have a direct connection with your health monitoring during exercises, especially for longer activities. So that will be subscription based. That is only something that people who want to monitor, who want to have specific needs, they can pay for those. Phase 3 will be then adding more premium services where you are adding maps, contours for long-term, for like longer bicycle rides and everything, and those premium subscriptions, those vendors can pay.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
So questions, guys.
More of a comment than a question, but this looks like a great fit for a crowdsourcing model where you can potentially raise funds and test because that's a very energetic community, and if they are willing to invest in a crowdsourcing model, you can test your assumptions and also get some funding. So that can be a perfect fit. Just a comment.
Actually, you hit right on the target, because the way I pitched this idea, I had done a lot of sort of homework, talking to a lot of teams. They are very interested. So that may work in the crowdsourcing also. Like what exactly feature I would like to add, I can get them. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, so just another comment. So GoPro, it also has targeted a very specific niche segment.
Yeah.
Your idea looks very similar.
Yeah.
So again, crowdsourcing would be the best strategy to go for.
I think maybe just one comment, I suppose, is that in my mind, just based on like I guess the actual idea of what you guys are selling, like real-time feedback. I mean, there's a ton of wearables out there. And I know, last count, someone actually made a spreadsheet when they did like 30 or 40 and it keeps growing.
Sure.
Part of the struggle, I think, is that I think the idea is great, and I think that what you're selling is the algorithm where you're able to collect all this data and provide and decide what feedback is necessary when and provide that. So I think it's a very I think your IP, really, your technology is actually software piece, your algorithm. And so, or maybe at least that's what I'm hearing right now. And so the question I have, and I think maybe the comment is maybe needs to be more focused on that, and maybe you can integrate with another wearable instead of having to wait.
I mean, the product will have both, but we agree that the hardware problem, the hardware, it's already, people have products out there. So the value add we are doing is algorithm on top of that, right? So, but the feedback would also be, sending vibrations. So there might be some hardware value add, but I agree that but we still want to sell the whole product, at least to begin in first 3 years of our
open to the
system.
partnership part too. Like you said, why don't you partner with somebody who has
exactly.
Just part of, I guess in a sense, for example, I mean, okay, I'm sure triathlon stuff, you don't go around with an iPhone before. I don't know, maybe I've never done one. But like even something like in terms of like getting to the market quicker without necessarily going through the entire crowdsourcing thing would be, can you develop an app, for example, which is Bluetooth feedback, where someone's hearing what they need to be hearing? So maybe I don't understand the market well enough. So you guys will, that's just a comment. Really.
So that's a natural thinking. What I was perceiving, whenever you are having coach, you're not having coach when you're actually doing race. And that's what the whole idea. You should get live. I mean, it may be app. Right now we run with Runkeeper. It gives me a live monitoring. Siri talks to me, right? But yeah, but that is giving me only 3 parameters. And there are more vital parameters which are in the space of machine learning, which we can say. Actually, I'm going more further into those parameters. If the 3 parameters currently variables are tracking, but if my bicycle wants to know how much torque I should apply to take this steep ascent to finalize my performance to the better timing, then that is currently not available.
I wonder, will not you be disqualified with all these gadgets?
That's why.
Competing with people who don't have the gadget?
Yeah, you have to you have to talk to the race directors.
The intent is to have your coach with you throughout the race. Someone who's giving you active feedback on what you do.
As long as it's not injecting hormones. Really.
Exactly. That's what
we are legal.
That's you have to put in the legal.
Psychological motivators are okay, but not hormonal motivators.
We have one more slide.
Yeah, we've done the engineering sources and
I can go through one.
wanted to
structure, right?
we kind of came up with the example cost structure. I don't know if you.
That we can do later on.
Okay.
I think
We
I
had
got
our
the idea. Okay, so
next deck. I'm doing the first one.
okay, so overall, I think pretty focused. I think the key thought that comes to me is, it's always easier to do a software product compared to do a hardware product, especially when it's already, this market is already like 3 to 4 years. It's been in development. Like the Fitbit probably did it the first thing, and so to the extent that your value add can ride on top of something that's already installed, like especially with the Apple Watch coming out, you already have a wearable with a lot of sensors already in there that, and it's already a community that's willing to pay, and it's a community that is evangelizable, right? So, I would say that it's always a great opportunity to enter a market when there is a big disruptive change, right? Apple Watch is a disruptor of all the dedicated wearables, right, for fitness. So great opportunity to jump in, right, at this point. So that's one thing. And all of those points need to come out in your BMC as to, why this thing all makes sense. Because that is what's going to convince you to actually make the jump. So you want the BMC to be something that is so convincing that it's obvious. You have to jump. You have to quit whatever jobs you're doing and you want to jump. Because ultimately, that's the goal of the BMC, to make it totally convincing. And otherwise, I think you guys are on the right track.
On the BMC, would that go under key resources or everything?
No, I mean, the value proposition has to be totally crisp. The customer segment should be, everything should be crisp. Everything should be like, okay, this is exactly how I'm going to get it done and why it's going to work. So no matter what question is asked in your BMC, you can explain, the reason why it'll work is because this guy has a need for it. He's going to benefit. This is the value to him. And this is what he's likely to pay. These are the reasons. And then you can explain that. Okay, so it's already 10 o'clock, all 10:10 actually. So for the rest, we'll continue on next week. But I think you should have by now gotten a flavor of why, because my feeling is we are going to be commenting the same thing on almost everybody. But really, the key sense is the fact that you really want to understand why your company can be built. Right? What the value proposition is, why customers are going to buy the product, and for enough that it's going to be profitable, right? Okay, thanks a lot. Good work. Hope you guys enjoyed your live
Feedbacks were very valuable. Would you be willing to give feedback if I send my?
It's not one of the ocean. It's not you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But it helps to do it in a group like this.
Sure.
But you have really something going?
Oh, well, I have an idea which I want to start with. I mean, I have a friend who's watching every day over here. So kind of want to start with that. We haven't done anything really small. We have a. Thank
The question, I think when we are building the BMC, there's so many
It's difficult to put in such a.
So did you go ahead and take a look at those six videos? You can see how change that's really happened is zeroing in maybe a small market segment. But if you successfully do it with a small market segment, nobody will get lots of business opportunities. Because that itself is not easy to find. One little market segment where you got something.
So I just somebody's watching. But do you think is that scalable? If you find a very small segment itself.